Berkey Emmons is 5x5 Bear. Awesome. Hi, everybody. Hey, Bear. How are we today? CWG, it's been a few months since I've made a live event. Dude, welcome. Lamppost 5x0. Lamppost. Connect your Bluetooth to your phone while you're mowing, and then you'll be able to hear me, I think. 2-5, Striker Kid. What's up, everybody? Kermode, what's up? It is that time of week. It's that Patreon exclusive live stream Thursday day again. We're going to start by me thanking you all for being so freaking understanding with our schedule here lately, which has been absurd. I really appreciate you guys and girls. And here we are. It's Thursday evening. We're a little later than usual, but we are here. Since you're in the new house, will there be no more back porch pelts? Well, Matthew, back porch pelt would mean that we had a back porch on this house, and we don't have a back porch on this house yet. We have some janky steps. And while I very much so want a back porch, I'm not going to go into debt to get a back porch, which means I got to earn more money and wait before I build a back porch. So when I have a back porch, there will be more back porch pelts. That day is not today. How are the cabinets going? Oh, Kermode. They're in. They're in the dining room, which is not the room that we're in. We're in Eden's bedroom, and bedroom implies that there's a bed, and she doesn't need a bed yet. So right now it's my office for the next year or so, and I'm cool with that. Let's get pelted. What's up, Spicy Snafu? Hey, Spicy, I gotta text you. In fact, I'm gonna make a list about setting up the studio. Look, see, to-do list. I got a to-do list right here. So fancy. Text. About home office setup. Got it. You guys know the drill. You guys know how we do this. You guys are going to be nice to each other in the chat. I'm going to be nice to you. Everybody's going to be cool. We're not going to get into a pissing contest. We're not going to argue. We're going to be friendly. That's the first rule. The second rule is this is a Q&A. You ask the Q's. I'll give you the A to the best of my ability. And ask your questions in all caps. That increases the likelihood that I will see them. And if I see them and want to answer them, I will. If I see them and I don't want to answer them, I won't. And if I can't see them, I can't answer them. And if somebody with a blue wrench answers your question's been answered. What's up, Travis Fleming? And I may refer you to one of the 7,000 plus pieces of content that we've already made. So, Kermode. We will be up there next Saturday through Tuesday. Let me know. Yeah, I should all the way. Yeah, we should do that thing. Pelton Fabrication. Don't tempt me with a good time. What's up, Shop Stuff? Hey, Bear. I tried renewing my Patreon membership, but the tier I currently have is no longer available. My grandfather didn't keep that membership tier. Bladesmith, you can email admin@Bear Independent. Come in, sit down wherever you would like to. We're joined by some esteemed guests this evening. We have friends that we had dinner with, and they're gonna maybe help us answer some questions. Do you want to be on camera? Are you ready? Are you ready? You ready to just say hello? Are we using pseudonyms? You're not in witness protection, are you? No.
Hello, Bear Nation.
It's Ren and Carla.
My wife.
Shalom.
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 So yeah, they're here as well, and I'll put the microphone over here. You should be able to hear all of us, and you guys are gonna ask us questions, and yeah. Do. Dana says, Carla. Hey, sister. Hey. To quote Carla. I'm pretty sure that's what it sounded like. Does anyone use a steam juicer in their canning? I've never heard of one. Do you guys ever heard of a steam juicer?
I've heard of them, but no, I don't use one.
You've heard of them. Why do we not use one?
I just never required one.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Palmetto says Ren is the
They're pretty
funniest
cool,
guy on the team. Awesome. All right, do
Really makes me wanna
questions.
make one.
I'm poking you with a stick like that meme. Do questions. Jimmy Carr does. That's cool. What's up, Roman Jeeper? I know I'm a day light and a dollar short, but did you get those ashtrays I sent you? Sheepdog? I don't know that I did. I will find out though. Any chance of training at Clint Eastwood's Lightning Ranch in the future? Decent people still in Oregon that follow you. I don't know, Bad Murvalas. I just don't know. Dude, I don't go to the left coast just as a matter of principle. I know there's good people out there. My mother-in-law lives out there, and I love her, but I just don't go out there. If they invite us out to train, I will consider it. But as far as so you Clint Smith, Thunder Ranch,
The older gentleman.
yeah, the older gentleman,
Yeah.
that guy,
Where is he?
Oregon.
Really?
Yeah,
Huh.
he was in Texas for a while, but now he's in Oregon.
Okay.
But they're gonna start carrying. We're gonna do a custom kit for him.
Nice.
Yeah, super cool.
I've never met him, but I heard that he's a really cool dude. I know James Shager in high esteem,
Yeah,
and I mean he's a very knowledgeable guy.
yeah,
He's been around for a while.
yeah. I've never met him either, but everybody, everybody in the industry acknowledges that Clint Smith is the GOAT.
Yeah.
So if everybody says he's the GOAT, he's the GOAT. You know.
Right.
What's the goat? Greatest
Of all time.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Unless you have a tinfoil hat on there, we talk about.
Yeah.
What's Ren's channel name? He's got some great vids.
Oh man, that's High Rev Band-Aids. High Rev Band-Aids.
High Rev Band-Aids.
Yeah.
Nice. There you go. What's up, Iridium Group?
Don't subscribe. I'm crazy. You don't want to hear that.
You're good crazy.
Okay, this is a good question. Advice for someone trying to get a small sewing company off the ground making homestead-oriented gear. Biz dev. Biz dev is like what I do. Business development. I love it. First thing that comes to mind is you don't get to decide if you have a good product. The market decides if you have a good product. There's probably 3 or 4 dozen different first aid kits that Refuge has made over the years that we don't make anymore. The reason we don't make them anymore is because the market said, nah,
They suck.
nah, we just and here's another thing. Maybe it's not different enough from what's already being offered in the market, right? So that's called market differentiation. Another thing I'll tell you is if you just love sewing, you just love it, you're passionate about it, that's good. That's a good place to start. But if sewing is the thing that like eases you out of your day at the end of the day and helps you relax and all of that, and then you start to monetize it, be careful because now you sew 8, 10, 12 hours a day and that can all the way take the joy out of it. When you start a business, a lot of people want to start a business and then leave the job that they're in and go work in the business immediately, but the business isn't strong enough for you to do that. So you need to, basically you're working 2 jobs once you start the business. One job, the job you already have, and then the second job is the business that you have to build up and strengthen until you have enough revenue coming in from the business that you can quit the first job. Because or you're independently wealthy. If you're independently wealthy, forget everything I'm saying because it don't matter. So you work inside a Refuge and you're in logistics. So, and my wife is down here on the floor with the baby. The baby's slacking. She has zero business experience.
She's trying to crawl.
Yeah, she's too busy trying to crawl. She won't just get out there and like start an LLC. But my wife is on the floor with the crawling baby. So, what do you guys think as far as like whether it's nylon gear, homesteading, business advice? Like, what pitfalls do you see people falling into, mistakes that are made?
Well, you mentioned that the whole being passionate, like my thing is motorcycles, right? And I thought of that earlier on in my life. I was like, do I really want to go into being a technician for a living? And I was like, and I know myself. So I was like, I'm totally gonna not like motorcycles as much if I have to spend my time doing something that I like to do, but like now I don't like to do it because I'm always doing it. So like I totally didn't want to do that. So that's something to think about. Like, yes, you have to be passionate about what you're doing. And again, I don't want a business guy. I don't know why he's asking me questions. But I think that you should be passionate about your product or your the whatever goals you have with that. That you should definitely be passionate, but you should find the balance. Maybe set boundaries right off the gate. It's like, okay, it's obviously you're gonna have to make some sacrifices in the beginning to get things off the ground, right? But you have to set some boundaries and some goals down the line. Okay, once I make it to this point, I'm only gonna spend this amount of time with this types of problems, and so that you don't sacrifice family life and on all those things. Not only that, so that you don't get tired of your passion that you started, right? So I think that's what I got.
Right, and the same goes for the logistics side of it, at least on my part, because I've been doing supply chain for many, many years, and about 18 years, I want to say. And there was a point where I wanted to have my own business, and the more I got involved, the more I learned the different paths that I can take, the more it became a burden. And then I was like, do I really want to own my own business?
Right.
Or would I rather work for someone
and
then call it at 5 o'clock and just
it's a real question.
Bye, boss. Going home to my family now.
Yep.
So how badly do you want it? Do you want to sacrifice your hobby or what makes you, or what gives you peace and comfort, and get involved in that way? Because there will be a lot of sacrifices, and you don't want to become bitter.
Yep.
Because then you're gonna. It's.
What's the point?
There's two extremes. It's like you love what you do through and through, passionately, 24/7 or 24/6, or do you eventually get tired of it because then it becomes loathing to you.
Yeah.
So think about that. Think about those that in future sense, because you're passionate about it now. You might not feel that same way, years to come, and then you're gonna hate yourself for it.
What do you think? You got anything to add?
Oh, I agree. Oh gosh, I agree about it being your passion. Like, I love to paint, but I did one commissioned piece, and I hated doing it because I realized I don't like painting when it's demanded of me.
Yeah.
I like painting when my creative juices can just flow when they want to flow. And so that's something to think about. Also think about what kind of production can you handle?
Yep.
Just from our own sew shop, if you're just doing, if you're sewing an order as it comes in, what happens if you get 10 orders at one time and you don't have any stock? You're going to then, be laden down with those orders and hoping that no other orders come in.
Yep.
So like, if you're going to do it, take time before you launch to give yourself a little bit of stock. Like you don't need to make necessarily like 20 of something, but have enough that if you sell 1 or 2, you've got some cushion.
Yeah, a little bit of cushion. I've got a couple more things to add to this question, and then we'll move on to the next one. First, back to products. I told you, you don't decide if it's a good idea. The market decides if it's a good idea. So how do you decide what product to launch? So you want to, it's called white space. You want to look for white space in the market. What should exist but doesn't, right? Like that's how Refuge got started. I made Bearfac 0.0 because all the other first aid kits sucked. They just sucked. And I was like, I need something that doesn't suck. So there's a lot of them that still do. But I was like, I need one that doesn't suck. Yeah. So I made one that doesn't suck for me. And then enough people, beginning with y'all, the patrons, were like, yeah, we want one of those things that doesn't suck too. And now we've filled 39,000 orders. Praise y'all, in 5 years. And so the white space in the market doesn't need to be profound. You don't necessarily need to invent something. You can improve something. Yeah. Right. And if you improve something well enough, that in of itself becomes what's called a market differentiator. Yeah. Right. And so like there's cheaper, better, faster. Those are the 3 things the 3 levers you can pull with a product or a service: cheaper, better, faster. People pay for speed, right? Like free shipping on Prime is free, but 2-day shipping is $80, right? Well, if you got to have it in 2 days, you're going to pay a premium for it, right? So that's faster. Better is, for example, the Bearfac. Yeah, it's expensive as compared to what? It's way cheaper than dying, right? But it's expensive compared to a freaking Rhino Rescue first aid kit. Yeah, because that stuff's trash. So better is a lever you can pull for leverage. And then cheaper. Cheaper is the other one you can pull. And cheaper you don't typically get without what's called an economy of scale. And if you're a one-person shop, you're not going to do cheaper. You can't. Cheaper is Walmart, right? If Walmart has what's called economy of scale. Because Walmart doesn't buy one of something. They don't buy a pallet of something. They don't buy a semi of something. They buy warehouses of Cheerios, warehouses of bleach, right? And so because they're buying 100,000 units at a time, they get a much lower price, which is how they pass that on to you. And so, but those are the 3 levers you can pull. So look for white space in the market. You don't necessarily have to invent something. You can improve something. Yeah. The next is, I've said many times, you should monetize your shenanigans. Like if you're already doing something, you already enjoy it. How can I make a couple bucks at this? And this is important. This is.
You can do it.
This is baby time with me.
Yeah, this squish.
She just wants to eat
Like,
your hand.
yeah, I know. She's so tired.
Those little Keebler Elfiers, man, they get me every time. All right. So then the next thing is with monetize your shenanigans. If there's something you enjoy doing and you can make a couple bucks at it, good. And I've said that for years and years and years. Now with the perspective that I have, I enjoy doing a lot of different things. I've monetized too many of them. It doesn't leave anything left over that's just mine. That's why when people are like, Bear, play drums on camera. No, I do everything else on camera. other than make love to my wife, you guys have watched me do every and that'll never happen. We're not getting an OnlyFans. Although we've toyed with starting an OnlyFans channel, but it's just righteous.
No, it's your feet.
No, we're not starting a feet channel either.
Whoa.
It's just like you just click on it. It's just like Pastor Barrett's like, get your dick out of your hand. What are you doing? But
can you do that?
I'm sure you could.
Dude.
I'm getting a sanitized brand new laptop.
Rule against keeping your clothes on.
Oh my! I'm not gonna stop thinking about this today. This is funny. All right.
So be careful if you've got one shenanigan and it's your pressure relief valve, don't monetize it. That's a mistake that I've made, right? And that's why I don't play drums on camera, because it's mine. That's just me and the Father time, and I don't want to point a camera at it. I don't want to build a channel around it. It's just mine. And of all the things that I do, I'm arguably the best at playing drums compared to anything else you've ever seen me do on camera. But it's mine, right? That belongs to me and y'all. So don't monetize all your shenanigans. Clarifying point there. And then to the point of like work-life balance, you won't have any. If you're starting a business, you got to have a job while you start the business. So you're effectively working 2 jobs. And while you're doing that, your home life is going to catch on fire. And so you need leadership capital in your home to be able to afford to spend the time building the business and working the job, knowing that the business is not going to turn revenue immediately. It's not like day one, we have money, right? Day one, actually, what you're going to be doing is taking money from your job and any side work you're doing and investing that in the business, hoping to get a return. You got to buy a sewing machine. You got to buy inventory. You got to marketing. You got to go to flea markets. You got to talk to people. So you're pouring money into the thing, hoping at some point you get a return on that investment back out. And that return can take years and years and years and years and years. And so it's how you define profitable matters. And what do you want to get out of it? Do you want to stay a one-person shop, or do you want to hire 100 other people to sew for you and take over the world? Because you can do both. But having an idea of what the goal is before you start matters, because you can't hit a target you can't see. And it's not just, take it from me, you don't have a business. Your family has a business, because whether they work in the business or not, every moment you spend on the business is a moment you're not spending on your family. And to Carla's point earlier, I can't turn it off. Sundown Friday is when I turn it off. Shabbat. Sundown Saturday, like literally 9:01 p.m., it gets turned back on. If you can go to Refuge Medical and buy something, I'm up. Bob the other day was like, did you email me at 2:18 in the morning? It's like, yeah, I did. He's like, dude, WTF? I'm like, yeah, I know. I was up. I had shit to do, and it was important. And then be a moron like me and do that with 5-7 different things. Right. So that goes back to monetize your shenanigans. Maybe don't monetize all of them. Don't wrap an LLC or a 501c3 over or around everything that you're doing, because then you start pouring into it. You put teams around it, and you get enough teams, you get a ton of direct reports, and something's always on fire. Like I'm actually getting texts about a Caleb House thing as I'm sitting here this very moment, while also doing Bear Independent, while also hanging out with my friends, right? While my wife is bouncing the baby on her knee on the floor. And so be careful how many hats you end up having to wear, because I do this thing now because I have to. If I could do it over again, I wouldn't have 7 things. I'd have maybe 3. 3 would be way easier than 7. But the issue that I have is that the 7 things are all good things, and I can't kill off any one of the 7 would be deeply detrimental to a bunch of people that I love and to the kingdom in general. And so I don't get to turn it off. So be careful how much seed you scatter as you start. Oh, baby. Any final thoughts on that before I scroll for a new question?
one additional thing to once you figured out what you want to do, and you looked at the market of that thing you want to do and all that, I guess make sure to leave, obviously educate yourself on what it is that you want to do, and then make sure you leave room for criticism and things open in the market, like you mentioned, T. You should first be passionate and believe in what you're doing, but leave room open for changes that will be beneficial for that thing that you want to do. The market's right. The market's going to be right, and you got to educate yourself on that market. But make sure you're happy with your product.
Yeah.
Make sure you're happy with it. It's like a balance, right? At the same time, leaving room open for improvements, and suggestions to the improvements.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And also,
because you were educated on more or less on the first aid situation, and you knew what you needed, right?
Well, that's a really good point. Here, I'll get us both in camera. Watch this. This is what 7 years of terrible production gets you. I know how to swing the little thing. But sorry, there's kids. There's not a child in the room. There's now a child in the room, so I'm not going to finish that thought.
Camera is a little thing.
Yeah, that's clearly my wife is holding my child.
Yeah,
is that a PlayStation camera?
Yeah, it looks like a gaming camera.
Matt Goza sent it to me 6 years ago.
Okay.
I don't know what it is.
It
works.
Good.
It works. It works.
When he connects it to the laptop.
Oh.
Yeah, I've done that too. I've gone to start a live stream and I'm like, what the hell? The camera's not working. It's not plugged in. That was all the way my fault. So a lot of people will get wrapped around the axles on a new business or an existing business on brand, right? Like I got to work on my brand. I need to unify my colors. I need unified messaging. I need blah, 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 blah. I got to work on the website. Yeah, all that stuff matters. But if you have a bad product, it doesn't matter, right? You can have the worst, like Bear Independent is proof of this. You are experiencing some of the worst production quality on the internet right now. Just facts. We have one microphone in the middle of the room and a camera we're spinning around on a tripod. And I've been doing this for 7 years. My total investment on my ability to live stream, it can be measured in hundreds of dollars, not tens of thousands of dollars, like a lot of air quote content creators, because the message is good enough, that the product is good enough. Worst production quality, best content on the internet. That's our slogan, right? And so with any business, the product has to be good. It can't suck. Yeah. If you have the best brand in the world and you deliver a product that's no good, you won't be in business for very long. To Ren's point, you should all the way take pride in your product. Like you should, and there's even something to say, maybe it's not the best, but it's the best you can do, right? And if you compare the Gen 0 Bear Fact to the Gen 3, yeah, I came into this knowing some stuff because for whatever reason, the Father has seen fit to give me Green Berets literally since I was 17 years old. I've had 6 Green Beret mentors. I'm 40. I don't know why, but maybe it's just because I swear a lot and I have knife hands and stuff. And so he just keeps sending me like green hats, just punch me in the face with knowledge. Cool. I'll take it. And our pastor is a Green Beret. Right? And so do the math. There's not a lot of those guys. Right. And so y'all just kept steering me towards those guys. And so I knew the very tip of the iceberg of TACMed. I knew we needed tourniquets. I knew we needed pressure bandages. I didn't know what an NPA was. I didn't know what nasal pharyngeal airway. I had like my Boy Scout training of like chin lift, jaw thrust, that stuff. So I knew some stuff, but I didn't know near what I know now. Right. Which the point I want to make with that is people who succeed start and then figure it out as they go. People who struggle try and figure it all out before they go. And then they end up with paralysis by analysis, where you have to have every little detail figured out. And you're never going, that's a fallacy. We're in year 5 of this business. We just had a huge meeting on Monday morning. One of the key takeaways of that meeting was, we don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to figure it out. Right? And so, and with that, you gain momentum as you go. You ride a motorcycle, right? Is it easier to steer the motorcycle while it's moving or while it's standing still?
While it's moving. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So and while you're moving, the faster you go, the less input it takes to change direction.
Yeah.
Right. Because you have a lot more momentum. It's the same way in life. It's the same way with business, which means go, just move, just start.
Yeah.
And another benefit to starting is you're going to make mistakes anyway. 100% you're going to make mistakes. So get the mistakes out of the way early. If it takes 100 mistakes before you have a viable business, I'd rather make those 100 mistakes in the first month than in the first year or two. Let's go.
Yeah.
And the reason a lot of people don't do that is they're concerned about judgment if they fail, which means they have their ego wrapped up in it. And it's like, or you could be doing something else. Who cares? Like, oh my gosh, you failed at a business. Like, no, but I did it. Like, whether the business worked or not, I did it. And I learned a bunch of lessons along the way. So, and not every business makes it. We shot Refuge Training Gen 1 in the head. It's like, this is not working. We can't keep doing this. This is completely unsustainable. I haven't talked a lot about it on camera, but we were like $300,000 in the hole. It was bad. It was bad. And I was like, when you're in a hole, the first thing you do is stop digging. It's as simple as that. So shut it down. Now, how do we perform the scope of work that we've already committed to? It's like, well, and pay. It wasn't debt, but what they were funded with versus what they spent. It's like, we have this giant hole. I have this bank account that has a gaping hole in it. Well, how do we backstock that? That was what, 18 months ago? And nobody knew, other than like some of the cadre changed. Nobody knew. And we still got the work done. So, oh no, your business failed. Did it? It just changed FEINs, came over here. We still performed the scope of work. Everybody who wanted to get trained got trained. Like, pivot. And you can pivot when you have momentum. You can't pivot when you don't. Your bike falls over when you try and pivot when you're standing still.
The motor's got to be running.
That's a great way to put that. Motor's got to be running. All right. Let's see. Question. What's up, Block 316? I have a friend who said, softball. I have a friend who says he's a man of God. We go back and forth on God's law. He says Jesus did away with God's law. Can you point me to the right direction to help him? Thanks. Love you, brother. Shalom.
Oh, boy.
I told you. I told you at dinner. Here we go. You guys ready? You need seatbelts? Like,
I'm going to use a restroom.
Okay, it's right on the other side of that wall.
This is going to be a doozy.
Yeah, we're going to be here for a minute. All right.
I came prepared.
You came prepared. I like it. So in the New Testament, there's a book called Colossians. And in Colossians, Ephesians, Galatians, still Galatians, Corinthians, Romans. Come on. Come on, fingers. There it is. After Philippians is Colossians. And the whole done away with thing really comes down to, in my experience in the Christian church, comes down to two verses. One, what baby?
Is it?
Oh, in your baby Bible?
It's not a baby Bible.
I'm sorry. Acts. I don't know if you have Colossians in your book.
One.
Here you go. It's this one.
Colossians.
Yeah. But listen, I outranked that book. So if you have any questions, you let me know. Okay? And I'm saying that because it's an adaptation of the Bible in picture form with words. Paul. Who's Paul? Paul, his name was Shaul, was the apostle, the teacher to the Gentiles, to the nations. All right, so in Colossians chapter 2, the quintessential passage is Colossians 2:14, where people will say it was nailed to the cross. And I need to find a translation that's not this. And all my other Bibles are in the other house. So let's see. Pull up the Bible app, Colossians 2. Let's change it from the scriptures to, let's see what Amplified says. Oh my gosh. Stop pop-ups. Oh my gosh. All right. I rebuke you. Who cares? So people will say in Colossians chapter 2 that this was nailed to the cross. So let's look at 2:13 to start. And you being dead in your trespasses and the uncircumcision of your flesh, he, Yeshua, has made alive together with him, having forgiven you all trespasses. Which begs the question of what? Trespasses of what? What did you trespass? Having blotted out, and this is the important part, having blotted out that which was written by hand against us, by the dogmas which stood against us. And he, Yeshua, has taken it out of the way, having nailed it to the stake. That's where people say, incorrectly in Christianity, it was nailed to the cross. Mm-hmm. The problem is, the law is not what Paul is talking about here.
Right.
What Paul is talking about here, that which was written by hand against us. Who wrote the Torah? Yah. He wrote it with his finger on Mount Sinai. And it says specifically, the dogmas, which is your religious bullshit practices. He's differentiating here between true worship, as per the Torah modeled in Messiah, and the religion of the Yahudim, the religion of the Jews, which is why Yeshua was constantly rebuking the Pharisees as well. You hypocrites, you tithe the cumin and the mint, the anise and the rue, but you ignore the weightier matters of righteousness and right ruling. You should have done both, is what Messiah said. You got a question? What's up? What? Okay, good job. Keep reading it. Read it again. And so what Paul is saying is that the dogmas, your religiosity, is what has been nailed to the stake. Now, we can keep going here. He's talking about Yeshua. Having stripped the principalities and the authorities, he, Yeshua, who stripped who? The principalities and authorities. Not Yah, not Moshe, not the Torah, not the prophets. The principalities, so that's your government, and the authorities, here referring to the church authorities, if you will, the synagogue, the unbelievers of the Yahudim, he made a public display of them, having prevailed over them. Now look at this, verse 16. Let no one therefore judge you. Judge you in what? What would you be doing that could make you be judged? Therefore, let no one judge you in eating or in drinking or in respect of a festival. It's a festival, Moedim, Leviticus 23, or a new moon. Oh, also in Leviticus 23, or the Sabbath from Genesis chapter 1 all the way through. Let no one give you a hard time if you do this, which are a shadow of what is to come, but the body of Messiah. Oh, you're the body of Messiah. You celebrate the new moon. You keep the feasts. You do Shabbat. Let no one judge you when you do this, which is the body of Messiah and a shadow of what is to come. We do these things now as a shadow, as foreshadowing of what we are going to do when Messiah returns. And if you read the book of Revelation, it's obvious that we're doing this. There's a temple, there's priests. Why did the Father in Revelation 7 seal 12,000 Levites in the forehead? Levites got one job. What do Levites do?
Kick ass.
They do kick ass. That's true. They tend the temple.
Right, that's their only job.
So, and now people will say, but if Messiah was the ultimate offering for sin, what do we need a temple for? Which goes back to a misunderstanding or a lack of understanding of the Torah. The offering for sin is one of but 100 different offerings that were made at the temple. You still have to make offerings on the high holy days, which is exactly what Shaul, the Apostle Paul, hold on, baby, is saying in Colossians. You still should bring offerings of thanksgiving, right? Praise Yah. You still need a place to bring the tithe to, okay? So none of that was done away with. The remediation of sin has been handled by Messiah. We don't slaughter animals for sin anymore. But we still need Levites, and you see Levites in Revelation. So continuing, let no one deprive you of the prize, one who takes delight in false humility and worship of messengers, worship of angels, taking his stand on what he has not seen, puffed up by his fleshly mind, and not holding fast to the head, Yeshua, from whom all the body, us, nourished and knit together by joints and ligaments, grows with the growth of Elohim. If then you died with Messiah from the elementary matters of the world, why, as though living in the world, do you subject yourself to dogmas? See, and this is why you can't read one verse in the Bible out of context and turn it into your own dogma for your church to say, I don't have to do that anymore. This was written by the Apostle Paul after the book of Galatians, which a bunch of people don't freaking understand, after the death, burial, and resurrection of Yeshua Messiah. Do not touch, do not taste, do not handle, which are all to perish with use, according to the commands and teachings of men. Colossians 2 is about the commands and teachings of men having been nailed to the stake, not the Torah. But most people, the vast majority of people, will not read it for themselves, will not read it in context. These indeed have the appearance of wisdom and self-opposed worship, humiliation and harsh treatment of the body, of no value at all, only for satisfaction of the flesh. Dude, fire.
Wow.
Yeah, fire. And so then let's go to the words of Messiah. Gospel of Matthew. Ecclesiastes, Matthew. So we'll start Matthew chapter 5. Matthew 5:17. After the Beatitudes. Messiah speaking. Do not think that I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to complete. That word complete is the Greek word plerau, and it means to embody. And it's the exact same word when Messiah stands up in the congregation and reads the scroll of Isaiah, prophesying of his coming as the Messiah. He stands up and says, today this has been completed, plerau'd, in your hearing. His ministry did not end when he said, today this has been plerau in your hearing. His ministry was confirmed when he said that. So complete, the exact same word, does not mean done away with. Okay? Do not think that I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to complete. For truly I say to you, till heaven and earth pass away, which is exactly what Moshe had the children of Israel swear against when the Torah was presented. He called heavens and earth as witness. Till heaven and earth pass away, one yod or one tittle, the smallest marks in the Torah, shall by no means pass from the Torah till all be done. We don't live in the millennial kingdom. All has not been done yet. Aspen, I see your hand up. Give me a moment, okay? Whoever then breaks one of the least of these commands and teaches men so shall be called least in the kingdom of the heavens. But whoever does this and teaches them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of the heavens. For I say to you that unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, righteousness, Luke 1 verse 6, blamelessly walking in the commands of Yah. Unless you blamelessly walk in the commands of Yah better than these religious assholes over here, you shall by no means enter into the reign of the heavens. Okay? You flip one page, no, 2 pages, I lied, to Matthew chapter 7. Matthew 7:21. Not everyone who says to me, again, Messiah speaking, not everyone who says to me, Master, Master, shall enter into the reign of the heavens, but he who is doing the desire of my Father in the heavens. Doing the desire of my Father. What is that? His will. Did he give us a rule book? He gave us a rule book. Sin is literally not doing the rule book. 1 John 3 verse 4. Write that down so you can go and have a conversation and rebuke your buddy. 1 John 3 verse 4. Sin is lawlessness, and all who do sin do lawlessness. Okay? Not everyone shall enter into the reign of the heavens, but he who is doing the desire of my Father in the heavens. Many shall say to me in that day, Master, Master, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name and done many mighty works in your name? And then I shall declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who work lawlessness. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and does them shall be like a wise man who built his house upon the rocks. And while I got it, go to the Gospel of John. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. John chapter 15. Also out of the mouth of Messiah. Starting at 15 verse 1. I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. Every branch in me that bears no fruit, he takes away. Oh, we're going to be plucked out of the earth. There's going to be a rapture. You don't want to be raptured. The tares are gathered first and burned, and then the wheat is harvested. Every branch that bears no fruit is cut off and burned, and then the fruit is harvested. You are already clean because of the word, capital W word, which is the Torah, which I have spoken to you. They're clean because they're without sin. Like Paul said, I knew not sin but by the law. They know what not to do. Stay in me and I stay in you. As the branch is unable to bear fruit of itself unless it stays in the vine, so neither you unless you stay in me. I am the vine and you are the branches. He who stays in me and I in him, he bears much fruit, because without me, you are able to do nothing. If anyone does not stay in me, he is thrown away as a branch and dries up, and they gather them and throw them into the fire and they are burned. If you stay in me and my words, capital W, stay in you, you shall ask whatever you wish and it shall be done for you. In this my Father is esteemed, that you bear much fruit, and you shall be my taught ones. As the Father has loved me, I have also loved you. Stay in my love. Which begs the question, how do you do that? Next verse. If you guard my commands, you shall stay in my love. Even as I have guarded my Father's commands, the Torah, Jesus kept Torah and stay in his love. From his own mouth in the Gospel of John. So I showed you 2 from Matthew, 1 from John. We're going to go back to Matthew real quick before we go back into the writings of Paul. Matthew chapter 19, verse 17.
I can hear the but Bear, how are we gonna do 600 something laws? I just keeps ringing in my ear.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Exactly. Right.
Nobody's the high priest. Yeshua is. So that's 200 of them right there. You're not a woman. That's 100 right there. You don't have to do. You're not a man. That's 100. You don't have to do. We're down to 300 right there. Okay. And it starts with the 2 prime directives, Matthew 22:36. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. Deuteronomy 6. And the second is like unto it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Leviticus 19, verse 18. On this hangs all the Torah and the prophets. Those are the 2 prime directives. Right. But I don't get to tell you how I'm going to love you. That's unequal weights and measures. Unequal weights and measures are an abomination to the Most High. Proverbs 11, verse 1, which you should have read this morning in your Proverbs of the day. Okay? Unequal weights and measures are an abomination. The abomination provokes the Father against you. So because he's righteous, he gave us equal weights and measures, aka the Torah, which just means Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. And there's only 300 or so that you can do. And so then you go from the 2 prime directives to the 10 commands, half of which are up, down. This is how you love with everything you've got. There is no God but God. You don't take his name in vain. You don't put his stamp of approval on his bullshit. You don't make graven images. You don't worship them. There is no idolatry. You will remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. That's 5 of 10, 50%, 1/2 of the prime directives. The other half of the other half of the 10 commands, the other half of that love your neighbor as self prime directive, is you do not covet. You don't adulterate. You don't murder. You don't bear false witness, and you don't steal. Those 5 are how you love your neighbor as yourself. Basic. The Torah then becomes, of the 613, it's like click here for more help. Right. There's a Torah for if you have a flat roof and you hang out on it, you should put a handrail up so people don't fall off of it. That's loving your neighbor as yourself.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Like, And it's like, oh, the burden of this law, even though Messiah says, come to me, all you who labor, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. Paul says the Torah is a blessing. All the prophets called the Torah a blessing. So in Matthew 19, verse 17, and Yeshua, well, look at 16, and see, one came and said to him, good teacher, what good shall I do to have everlasting life? This is specifically, Jesus, what do I do to have everlasting life? In the Bible, in the first gospel of Matthew, what shall I do to have everlasting life? And he, Messiah, said to him, why do you call me good? No one is good except one, Elohim. You can full stop right there. And remember that Messiah said, no one comes to the Father but through me. And that his job is to return the lost sheep of the house of Israel to the Father. And contrast that against the cult of Jesus worship that we have in Big C Christianity now. It's not that we shouldn't be thankful for Messiah. I'm deeply thankful for him every day. But the whole point of Messiah was Yah became flesh to be a kinsman redeemer, to pay a debt that we couldn't pay so that we could come back into Dad's house. Yeah. Right? If you use that metaphor there, Yeshua is our big brother. Mm-hmm. But we're here to hang out with Dad. And so we lean on our big brother, Yah made flesh, to walk as he walked, because he's seen the path and he did it perfectly. We're the prodigal son. We're the younger brother who wandered out of Dad's house. Somebody had to come get us, pay our debt, and bring us back into the house again. Okay? So Yeshua himself is like, bro, don't give me any credit. None is good but Elohim, out of his mouth. Okay? But if you wish to enter into life, guard the commands. Now, you're probably saying, which commands? I love God. I love my neighbor. Yeah, Messiah anticipated this. So this kid says to him, and he said to him, which? And Yeshua said, oh, well, look what he's quoting here. The Torah. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. Respect your father and your mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And here's where people get jammed up. The young man said to him, all these I've watched over from my youth. What do I still lack? He's like, I've been keeping Torah since I was a kid. What do I got? And Yeshua said to him, if you wish to be perfect, go, sell what you have and give to the poor, and you shall have treasure in heaven, and come follow me. When the young man heard the word, he went away sad because he had many possessions. And Yeshua said to his taught ones, truly I say to you that it's hard for a rich man to enter into the reign of the heavens. He didn't say it was impossible for a rich man to enter into the heavens. He said it's hard because the rich man, this rich kid's identity is wrapped up in his worldly possessions. Right. And that's why Yeshua is saying this thing that defines you now, you need to get rid of this worldly definition of who you are so you can follow me. So your definition is as a follower of me, not as a rich kid. Right. Okay? But it's right there in black and white. You wish to enter in life, guard the commands. Sin cannot exist in the presence of the Father. It just can't. Right. Read Isaiah. What is sin? Transgression of the law. Okay, which means don't transgress the law. But I'm not perfect. I'm going to mess up. Right. 100%. Yeah. That's why we have a Messiah. Yeah. And now you know you're messing up because you have a benchmark to compare your actions against, which is why Paul said, I knew not sin but by the law. Yeah. I didn't know when I was making mistakes until I knew what the rules were. Last thing, for this gentleman who asked this, you said you needed Bible verses to talk to your buddy about. I will forever be going to this book to prove this point biblically. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 is a hammer fist for this argument. I'm a little worked up. Sorry, full-blown Pastor Bear right now. Okay? Written by Shaul and Silas and Timothy to the assembly at Thessalonians in Elohim our Father and the Master Yeshua. As to the coming of our Master Yeshua Messiah and our gathering together to him, we ask you, brothers, not to become easily unsettled in mind or troubled, either by spirit or by word or by letter, as if it is from us, as if the day of Yahweh has come. So we're talking about the return of Messiah here. Okay, so this is prophetic towards end times. But Paul is saying, just because you heard something from a guy, it does not carry the same weight as if you heard it from Paul or these other apostles. That's really important. I watched a TikTok, and this guy was saying, pause, but hold on, right? But my pastor at church said, Bear from the internet said, I don't outrank the people in this book. I don't outrank Messiah. I don't outrank Elohim. I don't outrank the Spirit. And I've told my people before on several occasions, I don't have a monopoly on the Holy Spirit, nor should I. If I'm the only guy with the Spirit, we got major problems. Okay? So Paul is saying, look, first of all, consider the source. And then verse 3, let no one deceive you in any way. No one. Because the falling away is to come first, and the man of lawlessness is to be revealed, the son of destruction. The man of lawlessness is the son of destruction. It gets better. Who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called Elohim or that is worshipped, so that he sits as Elohim in the temple of Elohim, showing himself that he is Elohim. Do you not remember that I told you while I was still with you? And now you know what restrains for him to be revealed in his time. For the secret of lawlessness is already at work, only until he who now restrains comes out of the midst. And then the lawless one shall be revealed, whom the master shall consume with the spirit of his mouth. So the lawless one and the master cannot be the same person. The master is Yeshua, which means Yeshua is not the lawless one. Jesus is not the lawless one. He's been preached that way for 1,800 years, but he is not. Let no one deceive you in any way. And then the lawless one shall be revealed, whom the master shall consume with the spirit of his mouth and bring to nothing with the manifestation of his coming. Look at this. The coming of the lawless one is according to the working of Satan, with all power and signs and wonders of falsehood, and with all deceit of unrighteousness in those perishing, because they did not receive the love of the truth in order for them to be saved. And for this reason, Elohim sends them a working delusion for them to believe the falsehood, in order that all should be judged who did not believe the truth, which is the opposite of lawlessness, but have delighted in the unrighteousness. It was nailed to the cross. I work on Saturday. I can eat a pork sandwich. I can go bang my boyfriend. Who cares? I can do whatever I want. It's all done away with. It's all done away with, huh? Why is it of the 10 commands, everybody just like forgets command number 4? Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Even if you're going to make the argument, well, our Sabbath is Sunday. Well, you're still literally worshiping the sun, S-U-N, on literally the day of the sun, S-U-N. But if it's truly your Sabbath, why are you doing business on Shabbat? Answer me that. Nobody can. Well, it's our family tradition. Got it. So your traditions, your dogmas that were nailed to the stake in Colossians chapter 2 that I showed you when we opened this conversation, that outranks the word of the living creator of the universe, by whose mercy you still exist and breathe air this very moment, because you wanted to do it your way. And that is that lawless bullshit that Messiah is talking about in Matthew chapter 7. Get away from me, you lawless people. I never knew you. Just because you knew him doesn't mean he knew you.
And did you really know him?
What's that?
And did you really know him in your heart?
Yeah, that's happening all over the big churches, big city churches.
Because anyone can say, and the word says it too, like, oh, I love you, Father, and I'm doing all this for the Father, and then your fruits don't show me otherwise. And to piggyback off what you had said earlier, and when you know the truth, don't go back and do it again. Like, don't do that sin again.
Oh, amen.
Right.
Yep.
You know, because
you have the helper. The helper is going to convict you. The helper is the Ruach, the Holy Spirit.
That's a great word.
He convicts you, so you don't get wrapped around, oh man, this is a lot of things I gotta remember not to do wrong. No, like, you have the helper. So as you walk with the Father, the helper will convict you and show you the rights from wrongs. And you'll realize, oh damn, I was eating spaghetti the wrong way the whole time, so to speak, you know. And so, like, don't lose your mind over so many things that I gotta do. Just be conscious of when the Spirit convicts you of things, and then do that. You can't be blamed for what you don't know.
Yep.
And what was nailed to the cross was your I don't knows.
Mm-hmm.
That's what was nailed to the cross. Now,
Once
once you know, don't go doing what you're not supposed to be doing. There will be consequences. The Father will still love you and still forgive you, and you might still get to see Him. But it's gonna suck for you
Mm-hmm.
because that's just the way it is. You pay a penalty because now you know.
You knew better.
You knew better, and unfortunately, there's a lot of that going on in the big city churches, and a lot of pastors know.
Yep.
But they're wrapped up in the greed, and they won't tell the congregation the truth. And they know, a lot of them know the truth, and they know they're doing wrong, and they're misleading a lot of people astray. So don't subscribe, like TJ says all the time. Don't subscribe your faith to any man. Even Yeshua says it himself. Don't call any man on earth rabbi,
Yep.
teacher, master, for there's only one master, one teacher. Just make sure your relationship with your creator is always on point. Check if you ever check yourself on anything, you may stumble over your laces 10 times a day, but always make sure that you got that straight. Because that's your life, man. That's the ultimate preservation of life.
Well, there's a proverb for that too. The Father forgives a righteous man even as he stumbles 7 times in a day. The first time I'm on my 11th read through of the Word right now, which you think like, oh, you know it back to front, right? No, but I just keep reading it. I start in Genesis 1, I read Revelation 22, and I just start over again, right? Because every time I'm seeing something new, right? And the first time I really saw that, it jumped out to me. I got tears in my eyes. I was like, the mercy in that, because I know, like, I'm righteous to the extent that I can be in my flesh, right? And I'm walking in the model of Messiah, who is perfectly righteous, and I'm covered by his blood because he was perfectly righteous. But the responsibility is on me, if I know to do good, to do good.
Yeah.
But man, I've had days, right? I've had days where I'm just like,
we all have days.
I'm barely making it through, right? And
screwing the pooch all the way.
The mercy of he forgives a righteous man even as he stumbles 7 times in a day. I'm like, oh, praise you, Father, right? And that actually for like a year became like, well, I only stumbled 6 times today. Okay, I'm good. I got like really legalistic about it, but that the mercy in that really helped me because it's about heart condition.
Yeah.
Right. Just like if you know and you don't do it, like if you tell your kids don't do something and then they do it, they get in way more trouble than if you never had a conversation and you do it. Right. It was still wrong. But if they didn't know, you pull them aside, you have a conversation, you say, hey, listen, buddy, we're not going to do this again. It's bad for you. Here's why it's dangerous. Right. But if you've already explained that to them, hey, don't do this, which is the whole point of the Torah. Don't do this stuff. It's bad for you. Do this stuff. It's good for you, right? Because the Father is a loving Father. If you've told them not to do it and they do it anyway, now it's a whooping, right? Because they're just giving you the middle finger. They are disrespecting your authority. So, and the other proverb, borrow this for a minute, and then I'll go back to you guys for commentary. Because your buddy's going to ask this. Well, what about the people who didn't know? Right? What about the people who didn't know? Are they in the kingdom of heaven? I get this question constantly. There's a proverb for this, and it's a beautiful proverb. It's actually a cornerstone of my understanding of the righteousness of the Father. Proverbs 24, verse 12. If you say, see, we did not know this, would he, Yahweh, who weighs the hearts, discern it? He, Yahweh, who watches over your life, would he not know it? And shall he not repay man according to his work? The point of that, verse 12, is that accountability and understanding track together. You can't be held accountable for something that you didn't know. Conversely, if you did know it and you did it anyway, you did the wrong thing anyway, you will 100% be held accountable for it. And then that goes to the wider Torah movement, if you will. And we don't do labels here. Like, are you guys messianic? Are you walking in the way? Are you Torah pursuant? It's like we read the freaking book and do what it says to the best of our ability. But as people are waking up to the Torah and they're realizing that Yeshua was the Word made flesh. Okay, what's the Word? The Torah. He was the Torah made flesh. They're like, but my grandpa didn't know that. Like, my grandpa didn't know that. And my grandpa was a firm believer in Messiah, a good man. He loved his family. He worked his ass off. He poured into his church. He was in love with Messiah. And he didn't have this understanding. Why? Because this awakening that's happening right now is biblically prophesied. We're there. It's crazy. I did the math on this. And I've looked into other things. I've done a lot of research on this. The first exile of the children of Israel was 70 years. And the Father says, if you guys don't get your shit straight, you're going to get 7 times more. And they did. The second exile was 490 years. And they were exiled 7 times 7. And then the Father says again, and the third will be 7 more. Well, Israel was scattered to the winds. We don't know where Israel went after the second exile, the 490 years Babylonian captivity. But 7 times 490 is 3,433 or 43. We're 3 years away from that number, starting at when Moses was born. It's just interesting. Who did the Father entrust the Torah to? Moshe. And then you go throughout all the prophets, the greater prophets, the lesser prophets, the called minor prophets. All of them prophesy of time coming where there's this great awakening. So you just do some quick math. It's like we're 2 to 3 years away from that anniversary, per the Father's word, talking about exiling the children of Israel, that they'll be punished without understanding for 3,443 years or whatever it was. I don't remember. I should really just do some quick math. Yeah. 490 times 7. 3,430 years. Okay? We're about there, like within a year or two. And as a result, people are starting to waken up. Mm-hmm. It's happening. Mm-hmm. At first, it was a dozen people and 100 people and 1,000 and 10,000 and 100,000. It's now millions of people who are waking up around the globe who are now coming to this understanding in the Father's perfect timing for his reasons. So Proverbs 24:12, if you don't know, you can't be held accountable for it. But now that we do know, you will all the way be held accountable for it. And that's how I've been able to explain thus far, like what happens to these people who firmly believe in Messiah but didn't have this understanding. Or today, maybe they're of an earlier generation. You see that a lot with people who are younger coming to this understanding, but they're living elders, their parents, their grandparents, they won't buy it. It's just not happening. Yeah. They're of a different generation.
That's fine. Yeah.
But in this generation, this awakening is happening.
Yeah. Yeah, the Father gave them to know what the Father needed them to know. It doesn't make them any less unrighteous. They did what they thought was the correct thing in their hearts, according to the interpretation of the Holy Spirit in them. So they won't be held accountable for the other, for technicalities like that. Now, we're coming up learning a lot more than our ancestors did, right? So it's for a reason. Than our parents, yeah. It's for a reason, So that's heavy. You threw that one at me. That's cool.
Yeah.
You did the math on that?
I did the math on that. I'm a math guy, bro.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's wild, dude.
I mean, and remember, guys, like you have this.
Yeah. 100%.
You don't need. You ask, and the door shall be open. The
Yep.
Father, if you ask the Father, He's gonna allow you. Ask for Him with your heart.
Everything
Truly.
you ask the Father through the Son, according to His riches and glory, He will grant you. So,
Right, and you can have people that He'll put in your path to help you.
Yep.
Like TJ, like us, or your neighbor where you live.
And here's a
But you have it right here in your
Yeah.
hand.
something that I found in my walk with the Father, because none of those are perfect, right? And like T just says, the stumbling, like all the way. There's things that you know not to do, that you shouldn't be doing, but there's certain struggles we have. We carry certain struggles, sometimes, and like and some days are good, and some days you like all the way, mess up, and like, but it's like I go back to what the word says, that he who started that good work in you will finish it. He started with you. He's gonna finish it, and I can't even sit here and explain all the details on how he does things individually with you, with me, but like it's amazing how he tells you what not to do wrong, what not to do wrong, and then you mess up because you struggle with that, and then you fall on your face, and you feel bad because you didn't want to do that wrong, and then he comes to you with mercy and with grace, and shows you a love that you really understand that you don't deserve. It's like, it's amazing, right? And that builds your relationship with the Father. Everything, when you love the Father, when you love the Lord, everything works together for good.
Yep.
So even your failures will get you closer to the Father, because that's just the way it goes. You grow more appreciation, and that appreciation for His love makes you even stronger. And next time, if it's a initial struggle that you had, and you just accepted the Lord, or you accept the Messiah, that thing, it starts getting easier and easier, and at some point, it's no longer an issue, and it's because of His mercy and His grace, and that's why Joshua made the sacrifice.
Mhm.
It's for that, because without that sacrifice, we're all the way
Done for.
Yeah, So there's like the burden is light, His yoke is easy, right? That's what that means. So just don't beat yourself up. Well, you will beat yourself up over it, but just know that there's a process there, and it's not in vain.
And be careful, because once you know, you know.
Yeah, once you
And
know, you
so
know,
it's,
right?
It's better to have known me, to have not known me, than
Yeah.
to have known me and left my side.
Which is
Because then it's
just that that's technically the blasphemy of the Holy Spirit, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's why there's no coming back from that.
Yep.
Because who's the fool that would know the greatness of the Creator and just walk
and then
away?
turn away.
Right? It's like, okay,
you have a responsibility.
See ya.
One of the things that I find comfort in, it's really good commentary, by the way. I'm glad you guys are here. The Father knows the end from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at 1 Peter 2:21, it says, "For this you were called, that Messiah, having suffered for your sins, that you might walk in His steps." We were called.
Mm-hmm.
An invitation was extended to us. In spite of the fact that, I want to speak for y'all, in spite of the fact that I'm a busted up piece of shit, the Father extended the invitation. He knows the end from the beginning. Now it's on me to not be lawless, to not sin, to walk the best walk that I can walk in the model of Messiah. But He factored in the meanness of me when He made me. And He knew everything when He chose to redeem me. And so, to your point, when you struggle, when you fall, that's when you repent. That's when you should seek the Father's face rather than run away from Him. Like, just like, think about like just a worldly relationship. Bad news doesn't get better with time. If you made a mistake, go confess your mistake, right? The cover up is worse than the crime kind of thing, right? Like, when you fall down, that right there is when you should immediately come back to the Father. And when you do, think about how close you are to Him right then. When you're crying out with all your heart, "Forgive me, Father, I messed up again. Here I am. again about this same thing. Again, how could you love a piece of shit like me? Again, right? But you're there and you're in his mercy because he could take you in a moment and doesn't because he loves you. And he knew that. When he hung upon the stake, he knew everything you were ever going to do and still said, you're worth it. I'm doing it. Right? And so there's so much love and mercy in that for me. You know, and I use the word mercy because grace is abused. Grace has become a license to do whatever I feel like doing. Grace puts it on me rather than mercy puts it all on Yah. By his mercy, I'm still here when he should utterly destroy me. By the rule book, I'm done for. Right? And so, yeah.
And it teaches us how to be merciful with each other.
Yep.
You know, with your brother or your sister,
That goes
or with your, and it goes to family members that are not, or people in general that are not walking in the way.
Yep.
You know, because you were once there too.
Well, it's plank speck, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pull the plank out of your eye before you look for
Absolutely.
the speck in your brother's eye. And that's challenging sometimes.
100%. We're human. We,
Yeah.
you know, we can't help ourselves.
Yeah, so sometimes it'll be like, you definitely got a speck, and then your brother might have a 2x4 in his eye, but he's driving the bus. So like, I'm like, oh my God, what do we do now? That can totally happen.
Yeah. Well, that's where you get a group of guys who's like, hey, this is gonna hurt, but I have to rip this 2x4 out of your eye because you're driving the bus, and you can't crash. That's when you, what's that? Carrie Underwood, Jesus Take the Wheel. That's when you just start karaoke in that. That was a good conversation. You got any thoughts, babe? No.
No, I mean I just came in
Oh.
with the baby.
Huh?
That's weak.
Highlander said, I believe the guests are Ren and Carla. You are correct.
Ding 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 ding.
I'm looking for questions. Although the audience has gotten more and more astute when we get on a subject like this, they stop asking questions while we're talking because they know I'm not looking at the screen, right? And
No,
so,
you're listening.
yeah.
So you know to listen.
That was really good. See, this is what I was talking about earlier. Like, this is what PELT is, Patreon exclusive live stream Thursday. It's like, how do we help people be better? That's all. I don't know everything, but I do know a thing or two. How's the new bear den doing? What's up, Luke? It's doing good. We're still in the process of moving stuff over here, but we're moving stuff over here slowly because we have plenty of crap in our other house, and I don't want to just shoehorn all the crap from the old house into the new one. All jokes aside, large splinters are way easier to remove than small specks. The little stuff is able to take us down. That is a good word. What is something new the Father has shown you? One of the things that, so I was recently over the course of 2 days, I spent 15 hours in Bible study, deeply examining the role of wealth in a believer's life. Why does the Father give us revenue? And I would submit that revenue is different than wealth. What's the point, right? And is there a righteous way? And I had a presentation that I did at Refuge about this, but there were some verses that, again, like I've read this Bible a bunch of times, and there were some verses that just jumped out to me. One of which is in Gospel of Luke, chapter 8. And where is it? 10, 9, 8. Luke wrote some long chapters, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's why he and Paul got along so well.
That's the hardest for me to read is Luke because I'm like, oh, here we go. Okay.
It just
This
keeps
takes
going.
too long.
Yeah, it's like this one
It's
chapter has
so
78 verses in it. So Luke chapter 8. And it came to be afterward that he, Yeshua, went through every city and village proclaiming and bringing the good news of the kingdom of Elohim. And the 12 were with him. And certain women who were healed of wicked spirits and sickness, Miriam, called from Magdala, out of whom had come from the demons, and Johanna, the wife of Chuza, manager of Herod, and Shoshana, and many others, who provided for him from their resources. That had never jumped out to me before. So, because we have this in Messiah's first coming, he's Messiah ben Joseph, the suffering servant, as prophesied in the Old Testament. And it's like he's talking about all the time. He's like, I have food to eat that you do not know, and the birds of the heaven have a place to sleep, but the Messiah has no place to rest. And there's definitely an element of poverty to his existence, which I think is good because he didn't buy his way into the synagogue. He just showed up and preached, you know what I mean? And he was a man of the common people. But he was provided for from their resources. That had never, that just hit me like a ton of bricks the other day. And then you look at this woman, Johanna, the wife of Chuza, manager of Herod. Dude, this was asymmetric warfare. Herod was the king. The first Herod is the one that wanted to kill Yeshua.
Mm-hmm.
But now Herod the second, they've got somebody on the inside taking resources out of Herod's house and supporting Yeshua's ministry with it. I was like, hot damn, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. It's like you had somebody in DC on the budget committee that's just allocating funds to Bear Camp or something. You know what I mean? It's like, send them another couple million. Nobody's looking, you know?
Joseph comes to mind.
Joseph, 100%. Yeah. And so that really jumped out at me. I'd never seen that before. It just had never been on my radar, probably because it's the Gospel of Luke and I was speed reading just to get through it, you know? So
Absolutely.
that was really, really interesting to me that they provided for him from their resources. And so there's something to be said there, that these resources, because the resources that we have all come from Yah anyway. That's in Deuteronomy 8. We go there next. And so is there a more poetic example than the Father gives you resources, you steward those resources, then you use those resources to literally support the ministry of Yeshua, like him and his 12 apostles. It wasn't like, our church supports the spreading of the gospel. That's great. And I mean that. That's great. But this was literally the guys, right? There's like, you guys need some bread, you need some water, here's a tarp, what do you guys need? So that jumped out to me like a lot. And then in Deuteronomy 8,
I don't even remember reading this.
I'm telling you, dude.
Yeah, it doesn't just jump out at you unless the Father shows you
Are you
hey,
sure
look.
this is not part of the Mandela effect?
Yeah. Dude, that happens to me all the time. It's like, there's no way that was in there. How could I have missed that? But in Deuteronomy 8, I'll read you the second half of it, but it's essentially talking about, hey, because Deuteronomy is they're about to go into the promised land. And the whole book of Deuteronomy is more or less a couple of epic speeches that Moshe is giving before he dies. And so they're about to go into the promised land, and Moshe is leading all the children of Israel. And starting in verse 11, he says, be on guard, lest you forget Yahweh your Elohim by not guarding his commands and his right rulings and his laws, which I command you today. Lest you eat and shall be satisfied, and build lovely houses and shall dwell in them. And your herds and your flocks increase, and your silver and your gold are increased, and all that you have is increased. That your heart then becomes lifted up, and you forget Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of bondage, who led you through the great and awesome wilderness, fiery serpents and scorpions and thirst, where there was no water, who brought water for you out of the flinty rock. Now, this is an admission here, because remember Moshe, when he smashes the flinty rock with his staff, he goes, look, almost like this is Sparta moment. He's like, look what we've done for you. Right? He was pissed. I'd be, dude, if you have 5 million people bitching at you every day, I'd be pissed too.
Every time we come down the mountain to worship the golden calf, like, what's wrong with these people?
Yeah, what's his name? Phineas. Cosby, and what was the guy's name? There's a Jewish guy, tribe of Judah, actual Jewish guy, and he's got this like this woman from the nations, and they're having marital relations in the middle of the assembly. And Phineas, the son of the priest, is like, what the fuck is this? And they're like, we found some new girlfriends. And he hops up and takes a spear and runs both of them through. Picks him up on a spear and flops him in the middle of the assembly and says, no more of this shit. And the father, it's funny. The father says, and I will confirm a covenant of peace with Phineas. Like, you are my guy. And so the peacekeeping there, Yeshua says, blessed are the peacekeepers, right? Blessed are the peacemakers. Phineas made peace, and the father gave him a covenant of peace by running through an unrighteous guy and a whore with a spear in front of everybody. So a lot of times we think about peace as like, well, you know, brother, maybe I wouldn't worry about that so much. It's like, no, in the face of unrighteousness, leap into action, right? That's peacemaking biblically.
Yep.
And so, like all this shit's going on under Moshe's tutelage, right? They're constantly bitching. And they're like, did you bring us out here to starve to death and die of dehydration? And he gets pissed off and he smashes the rock with his staff. The father told him, speak to the rock. And he beats the rock with his staff and it splits open and water comes out. And he says, look what we did for you. Not talking about Yah, talking about him and Aaron. And that's why Yah says, dude, you don't get to go in the promised land. I'll show it to you. Dude, heartbreaking. Can you imagine? You're 120 years old. Spent 40 years in the wilderness. You were called at 80, so you're no spring chicken. You dealt with these people for 40 years. We're at the Jordan River, and the father's like, hey, come up here. I want to show you something. He takes you up on the top of this mountain. And talk about discipline. He loved Moshe. Loved him. Moshe was the only one to ever even catch a glimpse of Yah. Loved him. That was his homie. When Moshe died, the archangel Michael is engaged in warfare with the enemy for 3 days to recover the body of Moshe. That's in the book of Jude, and it actually comes out of the book of Jasher. So it's a non-canonical cross-reference there from the book of Jude. So the father sent Michael to go get Moshe's body, which is part of why I think Moshe is one of the 2 witnesses in end times. But that's a different rabbit hole. So he brings him up on this mountain and says, look, what a great job you've done getting everybody to here. That's the promised land. And I think the father, even though he disciplined Moshe, said, you're not getting in, son. My yes is yes.
I think he needs some rest.
He needed some rest, but also to show Moshe that his yes was yes. His yes was yes in that you're not going in, and I meant it. But his yes was also yes, I will bring you to the promised land. Look, there it is. You can trust me. You're going to die. Joshua, your understudy, he's going to take them in there. And there's this thing that happens where Moshe goes, because Moshe was the prophet, right? And he had to establish, for lack of a better word, a political hierarchy with captains of 10s, 50s, 100s, thousands, because there were too many people. Moshe couldn't run them all. But he wasn't a warrior. That wasn't his job.
Right.
And people miss when the Israelites go into the promised land that they took it by warfare. Joshua was a warrior. He was one of the original 12 spies. He was fighting battles while they were wandering the wilderness. Joshua had to be the guy in a period of warfare to take them into the land. Had Moshe brought them into the land, they would have been ill-equipped to deal with the threats that were in the land. So there's a passing of the baton there as well. Yeah. And so here in this verse, Moshe says, where there was no water, who brought water for, talking about Yah, who brought water for you out of the flinty rock. This is an admission. It's like, hey guys, I messed that one up. Like that Yah did that. Because I don't know anywhere else that it's recorded that Moshe says, hey guys, my bad. Now Yah pulls him aside and sidebars with him, doesn't embarrass him in front of the entire congregation, but says, you messed up. Now you're not going in. And now Moshe says, hey, Yah did that for you. That wasn't me. Because they all saw Moshe do it, right? Who fed you in the wilderness with manna, which your fathers did not know, in order to humble you and try you to do good in the end. Then you shall say in your heart, my power and the strength of my hand have made for me this wealth. But you shall remember Yahweh your Elohim, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth. And this is what, like, a ton of bricks. In order to establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers, as it is today. As it is today. So the reason the Father gives us the power to get wealth, he doesn't give you wealth, he gives you the power to get wealth, is to establish the covenant that he made with our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, as it is today. Well, he told Abraham that his seed would be as the sand of the seashore. He told Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, hey, you're going into Canaan. You're going into the promised land. Your people are going to get what they need. It's going to be good. Trust me. And so the reason they're receiving this wealth of the promised land is because of the word that Yah gave to the forefathers. So the reason they have power to get it in the first place is because of Yah, and his word will not return to him void, to establish the covenant as it is today. And that little word right there jumped out to me as well, going back to Luke chapter 8, because those people were taking their wealth and their resources and establishing the covenant with Yeshua as the word was going out. So we get a model of behavior there. It's like, if you have more money coming in than you do going out, okay, you have a surplus. What do you do with that surplus? Well, for me, that little squishy thing right there, I'm commanded to leave her an inheritance. An inheritance is a physical thing. And I've had 4, praise Yah, those little squishy things. So I have to build an inheritance for them. But then what? Then what do? It's like, you do freaking good works. You build the kingdom. You support the ministry. And so a lot of people look at that as like tithing, right? You bring a portion of your excess. Okay. If you can set it as a percentage, you don't have to set it as a percentage, because the tithe was a physical thing and it was an agricultural thing. It was brought to the temple. The temple's in our hearts now. So what do you swipe your debit card across the middle of your chest and call it good? Like, it doesn't work that way. So
It's not about money.
I look for people who are doing works of the kingdom. There's 2 different ministries that I support, and I just send them money. And then if I have like I make YouTube videos, right? And Google pays me what's called Google AdSense each month. And it's usually pretty consistent, and it's not a lot of money. And that little bit of money that comes in, I use to support the Bear Independent channel and the people who work for the Bear Independent channel, Dudley, Monica, others. But if I have a good month on YouTube, and let's say I make $1,000 more than I was expecting to, I just take that $1,000 and redirect it. Find somebody who's in need, and like, let's just help that person.
Right.
And when I say help that person, it's not like somebody who's legitimately in a jam. Not like they did some stupid shit for the 15th time and it bit them in the ass.
Right.
Like house fires, or, car breaks down or whatever. It's like, what can I do to assist? Further the kingdom of heaven. That's how I approach that. And that verse, but you shall remember Yahweh your Elohim, for it is he who gives you the power to get wealth, in order to establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers, as it is today. And it shall be, if you by any means forget Yahweh your Elohim, and follow other mighty ones, and serve them, and bow yourself to them, I have warned you this day that you shall certainly perish. Like the nations which Yahweh is destroying before you, so you are to perish, because they did not obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim. And so the getting of wealth is not the problem. The thinking that you did it, and that it's all like, I'm so good at business, and I know so much tac med, and I get great haircuts from Ren every other week, so I look good in my suit. That's the problem. Like, that's the problem.
Yeah. You're worshiping the thing. You lost focus.
It's a tool. All it is a tool.
It's not wrong for you to utilize them as tools.
Exactly.
What's wrong is you're no longer the guy with the Father. You're this guy here.
It's to use a really bad comparison. It's like the guys who like masturbate over their guns. Like, oh, it's got a 16-inch barrel, you know, FN called hammer forged machine gun barrel, and then I got a $900 weapons mounted light, and I've got a PEC 15, and it's like, but can you shoot the damn thing?
Yeah.
It's a tool.
Right.
Like nobody cares.
Yeah.
Literally, like I don't know, like our guys, we're gun guys.
Yeah.
We very rarely like nerd out on other guys' stuff
Right.
because we'll go to the range and we'll see if you can actually shoot it,
Right.
and if you can't shoot it, nobody cares.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, your gun's gay. Learn to shoot. Like, get a Glock. I don't know what to tell you. And so, like, it's a tool, and you use the tool for the thing that it's for. And if you can't use it for the thing that it's for, it's all of a sudden really unimpressive. Does that make sense? That's one of the things I found when I was in St. Louis, being surrounded by a bunch of people that had more money than sense. Not all of them. A lot of them were really good people.
Yeah.
But there were some of them I was like, I don't know about this guy. And it's like, I just feel so empty. I feel so unfulfilled. And it's like, you're chasing the wrong thing. You have a God-shaped hole in your heart that you're trying to stuff $100 bills in. No wonder you feel like shit. It doesn't work that way. And it's like, think about the impact that you could have with your ability. Like, you have all this revenue. Think of like, how many people could you feed? How many homes could you rebuild? How many orphans could you take care of? You know, and how many babies could you place for adoption? Like, pick a thing, pick a lane, do that. And that was really interesting to see with a lot of these people where their head was at versus where their heart was at, because they were so driven that they missed the point of being driven in the first place. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So, Patty, that's what the Father's been showing me lately.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Did you learn anything new lately?
Yeah.
Oh, flying squish. You're giving me this thing?
Yep, I gotta go.
Oh, Jay. Oh.
Yeah. No, I had a lingering thought for a long time on Joseph. When you put those things together,
Mm-hmm.
I really it's like there's seasons for things, right? So it's like Joseph went through what he went through with his brothers and all that, and like he was a promised child, right? So it's like he was meant to be where he ended up at from the very beginning.
Yep.
You know, that's like the Father appointed him to that, and his dad knew that, and he was preparing him, he was stewarding him, and that's why he was different than the rest of his brothers, because he had a different task down the line. He didn't know what that was, you know, but it's interesting to me how he was all the way righteous, and he ended up in Egypt,
Yep.
stewarding the Pharaoh's kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like only to be a blessing to his people
Yep.
down the line. And it's like not because he cared about the riches of the kingdom of Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
but because that's where the Father led him.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is
It's a good word.
It's new things for me to process.
It's a good word, because who else could Yah have put in that position? A man of lesser righteousness with more chinks in his armor, if you will. You put them in that position, they don't steward it. They're second in command in all of Egypt. That power goes to their head.
Mhm.
Brothers show up and
Right.
say,
Right.
hey, there's a famine in the land, bro.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like, oh, yeah, that's right. I had that dream that one time. Whatever, screw you guys.
Yeah.
You guys left me there.
Yeah, you want some wheat? It's double for you guys. Hey, dad's going to starve to death. Whatever. You know, I'm essentially the king of Egypt. You guys have a nice life.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a good
You all the
word.
way got to be built. You know,
100%.
you're the guy.
And you're absolutely right, because he wielded the power, influence, the wealth righteously for the preservation of life.
Yes.
It didn't go to his head
Right.
when he absolutely could
It
have.
could have.
It absolutely could
Dude,
have.
you got to be the guy for that.
100%.
That's that. You know, like that's not a position for just anybody.
Yep.
You got to be the guy for that.
That's why we're not all called to do all the things,
Yeah.
even though we want to do all the things,
Yep.
and our heart may be in the right
No,
place.
it's the body,
but,
right?
Mhm.
You know, you got the legs, you got the toesies, you got the arms, you got the head. It's the body.
Just know that you do have a purpose, but just because your brother or your sister may be where you think you should be, doesn't mean that that's where you're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So just be careful with that, and stay humble and just stay connected, because then you might, you're gonna fall off the trail.
And I think to that point, if you have a conviction of the Ruach, the actual Ruach, not I had a good idea and I took the Lord's name in vain and slapped his approval on it. If you have a deep conviction from the Ruach and it puts you on a path that's different than the path that I'm on because of a deep conviction from the Ruach, neither one of us is wrong.
Right.
It just means that our paths have diverged.
Absolutely.
And that's okay. And there's myriad biblical examples of that, where righteous person A went this way, righteous person B went that way, and it was okay. And it was part of Yahweh's plan that happened. And so a lot of times, like especially living in an intentional community, it's like, if we're not in 100% in agreement, we must all hate each other's guts. And it's like, not necessarily. Just because this person has a different conviction doesn't mean their conviction is wrong. Right? Like we have people who used to be here who aren't now, who are halfway around the world training TACMED somewhere else. Okay, good. If that's what the Father wants you to do, go for it. I will pray for you. And it's not wrong. It's just different.
Right.
And I've actually had to counsel some people on that over the years. It's like, you're ascribing some kind of worldly value judgment to this thing that's being plotted on a heavenly scale as if your friggin' opinion mattered anyway. Like it just is. And that's okay. Yeah. And maybe you don't like it. Okay. Why don't you like it? You have unresolved business with this person? Right. Like, go resolve your business with this person.
Were your expectations and somewhere, where they shouldn't have been, because maybe you had some selfish reasons for their presence in your life, and now they're not, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. And then it comes to and what are you really here for? Who are you really here for? Because Is the Father the one that guided you, or is it you that made a decision off of someone else's opinion?
100%. How many people have reached out and said, like, you don't understand, I just need to come to bear camp? It's like, dude, if you need to be here, the Father will make a way for you to be here. Yeah. Don't come here because I'm here, because I will disappoint you. I promise you. I disappoint me, okay? Like, it's guaranteed I'm going to disappoint you. Don't make it about me. Don't make it about us. Make it about the Father. Absolutely. And if the Father has us marching lockstep in the same direction, great. Like, phenomenally great. And if he doesn't, okay. Like, what word do you have, sister? What do you have to do? How do we support the thing that you have to do for Yah? Not like, that freaking Carla, she doesn't want to play basketball. We don't want to play basketball. She wants to play baseball. Like, meh. If Yah told you to play baseball, go play baseball, because that goes back to denying the Holy Spirit, right? That's unforgivable. So if the Ruach comes to you and says, Carla, you have to play baseball, and we're like, yeah, but we're playing basketball. Okay, you have to play baseball. Right. It's just as simple as that. Yeah. And a lot of times, especially when we were earlier on with what we were doing here, we had this idealism where it was like everybody's going to be on the same page about the same thing all the time. It's like, actually, no, that's not the case at all. So it's like, how do we stay on the same page about the big things that matter? Not even the courses of action, the big things that matter. You have a conviction of the Spirit, you should do it. That's a big thing that matters. And if the Father tells me, hey, I need you to move to Zimbabwe, I'm being completely honest. I will bitch. I'm like, I don't want to go to Zimbabwe. Yeah. And he's like, I will Jonah your ass. I will put a whale in eastern Oklahoma. You are going to Zimbabwe. And I'd be like, son of a motherfucker, okay, I'm going. And here's another thing too, man. In the multitude of witnesses, right? There's a proverb for that. In a multitude of counselors, a plan is established, right? And then also there's a Torah for that. In the mouths of 2 or 3, let a thing be established. When there's a big life change like that, when the Father's like, hey, I need you to go to Zimbabwe, he's not going to just tell me. He's going to tell my wife.
Exactly.
He's going to tell my closest
Yes.
friends.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be like, and you're going to see me over here trembling like a leaf on a tree in a high wind. And you're going to be like, what's up, T? I'm like, I don't know. I know this sounds crazy, but you're like,
100%.
And I'm like, I think I got to go to Zimbabwe. And you're like, yep, yeah, you do. You need to go to Zimbabwe. And that's the benefit of surrounding yourself with people who have the Spirit, surrounding yourself with people who love the Father, people who are trying to walk in the model of Messiah, because I might be all dicked up too. I might be like, I need to go to Zimbabwe. And you're like, have you really prayed about that? Because nobody else here, if my wife is like, I don't think so. If she's like, why are you going to Zimbabwe? I was like, because, well, it's the right thing to do. And here's another thing. There's lots of right things to do.
Right.
Is it what you were called to?
Right.
Because otherwise, you have the tyranny of decision. There's 1,000 right things to do. And to your point, you can't do it all.
Yeah.
So what are you called to?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's what you should do.
Right.
The other one is, you know what you were called to do, but it's not the time to do it.
That's a
That's the
great
other
word.
That's the other one, yeah. Because its timing is very important.
Yeah.
You guys talk about that for 1 minute while I go pee. Here. Giving you the cheese monster.
Well, well, to that, it's what he said, which is what I was gonna say is, if he's telling you, he's gonna let everyone else around you know as well.
He's gonna drop
He's gonna
more
put that
hints.
he's gonna put that conviction in everyone else as well,
Yep.
or that thought,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, and everything has a time, everything has a place, everything has a season, and some people are around you for a season.
100%. I mean, that's a lesson I learned
And
early in my life. Was like, don't hold on to people. They're like, there's instances, there's certain people that like you want to, but like when it's time for them to go, it's time for them to go. And I've learned what I needed to learn. I've experienced what I need to experience, and it's time to change.
Yeah.
And so, but like when you hold on to it, it
Like
ends up,
Like you're training yourself to.
yeah.
Right. It doesn't mean you don't care about.
No,
And
no,
like,
you
I'm
still
not gonna-
deeply
I'm not gonna
care about
about
them,
you.
but it's just like,
Yeah.
it's just something that, yeah, like I had to train early on just because of how much I moved, that it was like, okay, now it's time for some new experiences, some new people, and I've learned tons of things from everyone that
I mean,
I have had in my life.
and it doesn't mean that may be the last time you see them.
No,
That doesn't necessarily mean that. With some people, yes.
yeah.
With other people, they might just go away for a little while,
Mhm.
and then, you know, fast forward, years come around, and then you're like, oh, so and so's back in my life,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
like-
that's okay.
Like your predisposition and meeting new folks that the Father may bring is
Mhm.
like, it's now you're a little more mature in that area where, yeah, you're gonna care for them and love them and appreciate them, but now you have the open box here of like the Father may take them at any time,
Yeah.
to continue on in their journey, you know,
Mhm.
for His will, if that's what's to happen.
Right.
Right.
And you leave that open, but now you have matured into that understanding, right?
Mhm.
That we get there where
Right.
we can accept new folks, and I'm learning this right now. Like like I all the way didn't want to meet new people. I'm like, people suck, and I just want to hang out and play with my dog. you know?
Uh-huh.
But I'm and it takes me a while because of the way that I'm built. It takes me a while to establish. I struggle with emotions, So it's like it takes me a while to establish that balance between like how I perceive and understand this individual and how I'm emotionally involved in this situation, this relationship with individuals. So it takes me a while to get to that point where I'm like, okay, I'm here now. Okay, I accept who you are and what you are in my life, and this is
Right,
where
to
we're
open
at.
up, to
Yeah.
open up and
Yeah.
build that relationship and that bond.
And I really struggle with the emotional part of it, you know. And I understand it well, but it's just I can't rip my flesh off. You know, it's just the way I'm built. You know, I'm built a certain
Well,
way.
knowing it here and knowing it here are two different things.
Right.
Absolutely.
You know, like
And going back to what we were saying about everything has a season, what have you learned, and or what fruit have you given?
Yep.
Right, so that person has also learned from you,
Mhm.
and vice versa, because maybe that was the purpose of that
100%.
relationship.
Yep.
100%. Yep. Agree with that.
So
Oh,
just our 2 cents.
that's beautiful. You guys are great. All right. Yeah, spin me. That'll work. Okay. Really good question from 12C. What did you learn most from the last rebuke you received?
Oof.
Yeah. Oof. Well, I'll tell you a recurring theme in the rebukes I've received is very often the problem is me. Yeah. That's like a fact. It's like, oh, shit, I suck. Yeah, I did that. That's my fault. Because that's typically if you're getting rebuked, it's because the problem is you. It's not always the case. Oftentimes, and if you're getting rebuked and there's not Bibles involved, you're not getting rebuked. Somebody's bitching at you. Right, Fushy. So, but oh my gosh, on live on camera.
I'm coming.
What did you feed this kid? Lava? Hold on.
No, you're on your own.
You're this sturdy already.
Thanks.
Here you go. You got it.
This rug's washable, right?
Yeah, we just gotta move your 1,000-pound desk.
Beautiful. A little levity, huh? All right. So, let's see. The second to last time I got rebuked was prior to my ordination by Pastor Joe, and he called me up. So PJ never calls anybody. So if you get a phone call from him, it's important, right? And so whenever my phone rings and I see Pastor Joe Fox, I'm like, is everybody okay? What's on fire? Like literally, like answer this phone call, because I can count on one hand the number of times. I've known that man 7 years. I can count on my one hand the number of times he has called me, right? And so phone rings and he's like, "Hey, I want to ordain you." I'm like, "Okay, let's have a conversation." And so I went up to Shofar Mountain, had a conversation, a long conversation. And part of that conversation was, he was like, "Hey, you're doing a great job." It was like, comma, compliment sandwich, right? Comma. He goes, "What is with you cooking on Shabbat?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You guys cook on Shabbat, right?" It's like, yeah. Like if I was like, I enjoy cooking and I rarely get to cook. And so I'll cook my family breakfast or something. He's like, yeah, I get that. He's like, but the problem is it's not about you. He's like, because we can read in the Torah, seethe what you will seethe and bake what you will bake. Boil what you'll boil, bake what you'll bake. The preparation day is to prepare your food for the Sabbath. That's why they took a double portion. They would prepare a double portion on Shabbat so that on Shabbat, they're not cooking. I was like, shit. I was like, because I all the way do that. Not only do I all the way do that, I've all the way told people that on camera. Shit. It's like, okay, my bad. And so what that started was a concerted effort in my household, A, to have food prepared on Friday for Shabbat, and B, if we're going to eat on Shabbat, it's not food that has to be prepared on Shabbat. It's food that we already have. So, right. And so we're now in like the reheat club on Shabbat. Like it's already made, chuck it in the microwave, and then people are like, but can you use electricity on Shabbat? And I was like, we're not Hasidic Jews. Yes, we use electricity on Shabbat. So that was the first thing. And I was like, and I'm not gonna lie, we've not been perfect at it, but because the conversation was had, it now becomes a thing that you're aware of, right? Like Paul, I knew not sin but by the law. And now it's like, oh, I really need to be paying attention to this because I've all the way stumbled in this. And I've also all the way told other people to stumble in this. That's my bad. So Exhibit A, I was the problem, right? And then most recent rebuke was 10 days ago. What's today? Thursday? It was 8 days ago. 2 executive meetings ago. On Wednesday, we have our exec meetings where leadership from all the different organizations in the enterprise come together, sit around the conference table, get everybody on the same page. Because there's too many moving parts and a lot of people wear multiple hats in multiple organizations. And what one does affects the rest of them. So let's just everybody coordinate. And I had just gotten back from St. Louis. Actually, I went to St. Louis, went on our first family vacation, and I don't know how long, a couple of years at least, in Branson, and then get home, and we came home on Sunday, I think, and now it's Wednesday, and I'm just fired up, man. I'm excited to be back, and I'm talking to Bob at the executive meeting. I'm talking to everybody, and I was like, hey, I'm working on putting together the core values presentation for Refuge. And it's going to be great. This is what we're going to do, blah, 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 blah. And Bob, in front of everybody, and I love him for it, he goes, he kind of raises a finger. And I said, what's up, Bob? And he said, I think it all sounds great. He said, but this can't be like all the other times that you went and learned something, came back on fire, and we're going to implement and we're going to do all these things. And then 2 weeks later, it's dead. And that was like a gut punch of recognition for me because how many times at a camp level, it's like we should learn juggling. Okay, juggling classes are Tuesday evening. And the first Tuesday evening, there's 80 people there. And then the next Tuesday evening, there's 60 people there. And the next Tuesday evening, there's 30 people there. And the next Tuesday evening, there's 5 people there. And the next Tuesday evening, there's 1 person there. It's the person holding the class. And then 2 months later, everybody's like, well, what happened to juggling class? It's like nobody came. So we stopped having juggling class, right? I was like, oh, shit, I do that too. Except I do it on the business side.
You do it with the company.
I do it with the company, right? And I was like, received. And he was like, I hope I didn't overstep my bounds. I was like, no, good. And that's something just to bring up. Disagreement is healthy as long as it's productive. As long as when we walk away from this conversation, we all acknowledge, it should even begin with, we all acknowledge when we're going to have this conversation, I'm still going to love you after this conversation. The love I have for you is not hinging upon this conversation going one way or the other. I want righteousness out of this conversation. That's what I want. And there have been times I've sat down with people to have a conversation. We've poured through the scriptures, and I came away with a different understanding than what I started with. I was like, actually, I'm the problem here. That's my bad. So now, and a lot of people, if they're going into a rebuke, they'll pull out their Bible and start flipping through it and figure out, how do I weaponize this for this argument that I'm about to have? That's not a rebuke. An argument is always done in love. Always. A rebuke should, the gravity of it should cost you something to have the conversation. Not monetarily, but there's a weightiness to the conversation. And so you should go into it prepped up with the word. You should be carrying your Bible into that conversation, but it's a conversation. If the conversation isn't had, then you're, per Matthew 18, Messiah, then you bring 2 or 3 witnesses. And a witness is somebody who was privy to the situation in the first place. Not, I got something against Squish, right? She puked on me the other day and nobody was there to see it but me, right? And then I'm like, hey guys, we're going to go rebuke Squish. And I tell you the story and I tell you the story. And now we have 3 witnesses. If you weren't there, You didn't see it. You're not a witness. Right? That's why the woman who was caught in adultery and the Pharisees bring her to Yeshua, and one by one, Yeshua says, "He who is perfect cast the first stone." One by one, they all leave. And Yeshua says, "Where are those men who condemn you?" And she says, "There's no one here to condemn me." And he says, "Neither do I condemn you. Go." And it's painted as a picture of mercy. And it is, but per the Torah, he can't condemn her. He's not a witness. He wasn't there. So anyway, Bob said this thing to me, and he's like, "Hey, we'll take it." And essentially what he's saying is, we'll take it as seriously as you take it. And if this is going to be a thing, you need to take it seriously. And that was received. And in the moment, I was like, oh, got it. I have been messing that up. And then it was weird because you could feel like some other people in the room were like, is this really happening right now? Like, I don't know how to feel about this. What's going on? And I said to him, I said, thank you for saying that. And what that tells me is my lack of commitment in the past has negatively affected you. Because if it hadn't negatively affected you, would not have brought it up now. And so I'm sorry that my actions in the past have negatively impacted you. I didn't know it was like that. But now that I do, thank you for telling me. I will do better to make sure that doesn't happen again. And so like the rebuke is like, in many cases, like it's an examination in the best way possible. It's like holding up a mirror and looking at it and going, shit, there is a 2x4 in my eye. I didn't even know it was there. Thanks, guys, for letting me know that. And it's always done properly. It's always profitable. So.
That was a great meeting too, though. It was a great day.
Was it?
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It was great.
I had nerves, bro.
Yeah.
I had nerves. Which is weird because, like, I drive all around the country and go talk to people. Like, I get paid to run this mouth, you know? And, but, like, talking in front of us at 807, like, I had butterflies.
Because you were doing it in reverence to the Father. That's why.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that was good.
Thank you. Let's see. We're 2 hours in. Then we got one more question. How many ribeyes are you eating on the average week? 1 a day and a pound of chicken breast. What if you show your love through preparation of food, and to you it's the furthest thing from work? That's literally the argument I made to Pastor Joe, and he was like, cool. And the Bible says what it says.
Okay. It goes back to your own traditions, dogma. Like, do what the book says, not what you think is right.
Yeah. Team Souson, Team Reheat. That's us. Palmetto. We do all the prep work on prep day. A crock pot or a deep fryer, etc. is okay with me. I'll tell you what, the air fryer has really become our go-to on Shabbat. Like, between that and the microwave, we throw some stuff in there. And I've often wondered, like, how legalistic should one be about this? Because the air fryer is basically a little oven. Right. This is basically what it is. I don't know. Like, I don't have a definitive answer on it anymore, or at this moment, but I do know what I'm not doing is busting out the stove, busting out the oven, preparing a gigantic meal, even though I really like doing that. And so, like, Sunday morning, which is a work day, 6 days Yishal labor. Sunday, we usually do work here on the property, or work day at somebody else's property. Sunday morning, if I want to make a stack of pancakes and a couple pounds of beef bacon and 2 dozen eggs, I can do that Sunday morning. And it's not about what I want. That's the whole point of this relationship. It goes back to, like, submission, right? If Yeshua paid our debt and brought us back into the house, and Dad says, hey guys, I have rules, and the Sabbath is a day of rest unto Yah, I don't want to be put in a position where I'm telling Yah how I'm going to serve him when he's gave clear direction on how I'm supposed to, right? And the the minutia of the details, right? It's like, yeah, but can I cook? Shouldn't I cook? It's like, it's called day of prep. Prep what? It was literally in regard to food. That's why it was called day of prep. It's like, that's hard for me to argue with. If you just read it and look at it, it's like, that's all the way about food. And so, like, we prep our livestock and we prep all other things on day of prep. And is there fuel in the truck? Like, we prep all these other things, but tomorrow on Shabbat, I'm gonna cook whatever the hell I want. I haven't had lasagna in years. Let's make a lasagna. And it's like, dude, it's about prep. It's literally about prepping food. And so, this is not me passing judgment on anybody, because like I said, not only have I messed it up, we've not been perfect at it since I was issued that rebuke, but I'd say we're 95% probably. And then you get into a situation that's like, but what if I couldn't get any food prep? The sun, especially in the winter, sundowns at like 3 p.m, and it's like, but what are we going to do? It's day of prep. And I didn't like, Father doesn't want you to starve either. The Torah is about the preservation of life. And so, you make what you can make, but like, I'm not, it's not be like, let's do a standing rib roast with some garlic horseradish mashed potatoes. And
that sounds amazing.
Doesn't it? So, yeah, on first day. Yeah, well, and that's why, like, why is the day of Passover technically not a Sabbath? Because we have to make a fire and we have to prepare food, right? So the first holy day in that week is the first day of unleavened bread, which is the day after Passover, because we have to make a fire, we have to prepare food. And so there's a lot of, you can back it up biblically. And once you become aware of it, it's like you just start seeing it everywhere. Like, oh, got it now. It's a really important day. It's a Moedim, but it's not a high Sabbath. It's an appointed time, but not a high Sabbath. There's a couple other ones in Leviticus 23 as well, because we got to eat, that are appointed times, but not high Sabbaths.
Yeah.
So, because fire and food.
Yeah.
All right. Crock pots save lives. What's up, Fluster Clog?
New channel idea. Gourmet with mayor. You dressed in a little hat.
We could get the person with the sew shop to make me an apron,
Yeah.
and one of those like multi-cam chef's hats.
Yeah.
Got people in the background. Yes, chef.
I was gonna say we got chef's hats in the drawer from Fondant and Ganache.
Oh, we do.
Dad,
Yeah, baby.
can I draw on one of your whiteboards?
You want to draw on one of my whiteboards?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
They're still up there.
there are. Can you get over there? Don't trip over that cord. All right, we're gonna go a little bit longer. TJ, how much do you incorporate? What's up, Jody? Organ meats into your diet? Essentially 0. Not that I have. I'm real quick backstory. I grew up poor. I ate a lot of organ meat. I don't now, because praise God, I'm not poor anymore. And I'm not rich, but I don't have to eat liver. And I never really liked it to begin with, like liver and onions. But it was on the menu when I was a kid, and if I was starving to death, I'd eat it. But I'm not, praise God.
Liver is good for you.
I know it is. So are multivitamins.
And a lot less smelly.
You gotta know how to make liver and onions. Not everybody does.
What do you mean by murdering with your words?
Mm.
Is that a phrase y'all used while I was in the bathroom? Because I don't think I've said that phrase
I
today.
don't think I said that either.
I don't think I said that either.
Who's asking?
Who said that? I mean, it is in the
Aaron
word.
E. Yeah, it's Messiah talks about it. If you call your brother an idiot, Rakah, you've murdered him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and your words can be a blessing or.
Yeah, your words 100% have power.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
thing. I just don't remember.
But
what
I
was talking
Yeah.
don't recall.
Yeah.
I think the teachable moment there is that your words come from the heart.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you're in a
And even
position,
the heart is deceitful.
100%. Right. And it's we're supposed to, under the renewed covenant, have a new one. Right. And sometimes it's like, I know I'm supposed, there's, no longer a heart made of stone, but a heart made of flesh, and his name's supposed to be written on it. But man, I'd love to punch that guy in the face, and like, I'm telling you, there's a lot of people who have kept their teeth because I have ZZ on. It's just a fact. Like, I have just all the way been like, and they're there physically, right? And like, instead of wrapping this hand around their throat, I'm gonna wrap it around his ZZ and just look the other direction. And it's usually people in the world. Like, Walmart is terrible for me. I can't Walmart. I can't. Because there's women wearing not clothes walking around, like every curve, every inch of their body's on display. And then there's just like children who are disobedient. And then there's men, air quotes, strolling around. And then I'm just like, I just can't. There's no safe place for me to look in this store. And people, not everybody, but there's always disrespectful people. And it's like, it puts me on edge. And then I'm like, I think I might go to jail today. I think I'm just this guy in front of me in line, I'm going to punch him up and over this little conveyor belt. And it's like, and I'm just going to grab these ZZ and just start praying and look over here. Oh, look, Town and Country Garden magazine. How interesting. Snickers bar. Okay, whatever. So, what's up, Ben? Never mind.
What?
Tongue is a double-edged sword. And then...
What? You gonna talk?
I'm looking to relocate south soon, but only have Friday after work to Sunday evening. What about me driving 8 to 10 hours on Shabbat? Oh my gosh, his word heals. I want to be so gentle and compassionate and kind with you, so please understand that I'm saying this in love. How the hell is that restful? How the hell is that set apart to Yah? We drive a good distance either way sometimes on Shabbat to go fellowship, and even that is not restful sometimes. And it certainly is not 8 to 10 hours. And can you drive that far without buying fuel, doing business? And then what are you going to eat? What happens if the car breaks down on the side of the road, or you get stuck and you need a hotel room? Like, what you're inviting opportunities for chaos. What I would do, if you're looking to relocate and you only have Friday through Sunday evening, is I would be in prayer over that hard, that if it's the Father's will for you to do that, that he makes a way for you to do that is not disobedient to his word. And if testify. And if it's his will, he will make a way for you. And by the way, his way will never break the Torah. It will never involve sin. Sin is lawlessness, 1 John 3, verse 4. And then John chapter 16, the helper that you brought up earlier, the Ruach, shall convict you concerning sin, righteousness, and judgment. So when you're like, I just have a conviction of the Holy Spirit that I got to drive 19 hours on Shabbat, it's like, that's not the Holy Spirit. Because the Spirit's not going to tell you to break Torah. So, and then that gets into the question of like, what can you do on Torah? Like, if work, air quote, is not permitted on Shabbat, what can you do? And the answer to that is preservation of life. It's lawful to do good on the Sabbath, but you don't get to define what good is. You can pull a donkey out of a ditch. I'll give you an example. We have a little ministry called Grindstone Ministries. We go around the country after hurricanes and tornadoes and help people. We're there to help people. We don't work on Shabbat unless it's life or death. We had about 250 Spanish-speaking people in Kentucky after the Mayfield, Kentucky hurricane that lived in a community by themselves. It was not a wealthy community. It was not a lower class community. It was poverty. Their stuff got smashed in the storm. There was no cell service, no electricity. They had no working vehicles. And Pastor Joe's daughter, who was with us, working as a translator for us and a liaison for us, became aware of this group of people, 250 of them on Shabbat. And it's December in Kentucky and it's cold. And they're like, what do we do? It's Shabbat. And I was like, we start cooking chili and getting them blankets right now. Right now. We're up because it's preservation of life. If we don't intervene, this person could die. That's lawful. But if it can wait till sundown, then you wait till sundown. But if it can't wait till sundown, if it's the preservation of life, we do it right now. Yeshua healed on the Sabbath for the preservation of life, right? So we have that model to work off of. But you don't go looking for donkeys and ditches on Shabbat.
Right.
You don't hop in a truck and go do recon in a disaster zone because you're going to find work to do on Shabbat. So you got to rightly divide that. And as far as driving 8 to 10 hours on Shabbat, because it's the only way, dude, you belong to the creator of the universe. You're putting limits on what his capabilities are. If it's his will, there's not one way. There's infinite ways that he can problem solve this for you that don't involve transgressing his word.
And it's not going to be right away. Just know that. Even if he is calling you to come out of her, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen overnight. And eventually it will take time. And he'll make it happen. If that's what if that's what he's calling you to do. But continue to pray, and he will make a way. 100% he'll make a way.
It could also be that you get the conviction and you are 100% certain this is what you need to do, but you still don't have the full picture of what that exodus looks like and when to do and where to be, where it is. It could be that where you think it is, it might not be exactly where it's gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You gotta pray and ask the Father for it.
Could be completely out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, it could be. Oklahoma was the last place I thought I was gonna live. I just say that. Yeah.
I knew.
She did.
Yeah. I knew y'all would be here.
I did too. Oh, you can't on you anymore?
She's like,
Stop it! I'm gonna cry. I don't know how do you talk at an iPhone?
You were saying you do too?
Yeah. When we were in Florida, after that hurricane there, everyone came out to help. It was just a matter of time.
Tallahassee.
No.
No, what was that?
No, yeah, it was yeah.
Oh.
Where was that?
I met him in Tallahassee.
Yeah, that was the class.
Yeah.
Did you see Serenity?
All right, guys. 2 hours and 18 minutes. That's your 250
We jacked
for the
our
week.
jaw enough.
Yeah. Mostly that one.
Yeah.
Mostly
Tell
squish.
Swish. Say, rah, 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 rah,
Is it
rah,
okay
rah,
to only wear one ZZ? All right, we're gonna end with that.
I'm wearing two.
My daughter, who's 7, is wearing 2 currently.
What say you?
So in Numbers 15:37, it says to put the tzitzit on the 4 corners of your garments. And so, do you wear a square like they used to back in the day? Probably not. Most people don't. And so the modern adaptation of that, there's 3 ways I've seen it done. One is to clip them to your 4 belt loops. One is to sew them onto the bottoms of your shirts. I've seen that. And then you need a lot of tzitzit. Even if you have 5 shirts, that's 20 tzitzit. It's a thing. And then the other way that I've seen is that people will have a corded belt that has a tzitzit on it that they'll put that on over the belt that's holding their pants up, tie that, and then it transfers from one to the next. I'll be honest with you. I have, like, let's say I'm going to the gym in the morning and I throw shorts on. I don't have zits on my shorts, but I have one on my keys. And so when I clip my keys to my short, I still have that physical reminder. And so I could be really legalistic and say, no, you should have 4 on all the time. And I would be a hypocritical asshole because I don't have 4 on all the time. I think ideally you have 4, when you can have 4 of them on, you have 4 of them on. But I know I have brothers that have one on a key ring. And so
I have one on my backpack. I have one on my keychain.
mm-hmm.
I have 4 on me now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not always wearing.
But I'm not always wearing pants
But your
with
purse is
belt
always
loops.
with you.
But my keys are always with me. So it depends. I mean, the what is the purpose of you wearing it? I mean, what is the purpose of you even having one?
Yep.
So then, what are your reasons behind it? It's supposed to be a reminder.
So you don't punch people in the face at the gas station.
Exactly.
So that when you're at Walmart and you just hold on to your ZT and just don't look anywhere and just look forward.
Don't look at the Walmart.
Yeah, don't look at the people.
Yeah.
So then I don't think I can answer that. It's like I don't think there's a right or wrong way. If you're wearing 4, then if you feel convicted to wear 4, then wear 4. If you want to start off with 1, I don't think that's a bad thing. It just depends on your conviction and what you feel in your heart to do. And I don't think that anyone should judge you for that either, because I mean, not all of us know what we're doing, but our hearts are in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
So even though the word does say put, on each 4 corners, but I don't know if we have. Do we have 4 corners?
No.
We have like
I'm round.
Okay. I'm with TJ on the I'm always wearing the same style pants, and I always have them hooked to my belt. To my belt loop.
Mm-hmm.
But 95% of the time I'm wearing these pants, but there's that time where I'm wearing beach shorts, hanging around the house, or I'm actually go to the gas station not wearing my pants. Well, I'm wearing shorts, just not, Whoa. You know what I mean.
What are you doing?
Yeah, like if you have the conviction to have a system where even your hangout shorts that don't have pockets and like beach style or basketball style shorts, if that's your conviction, do what you're convicted to do. Figure out a system to have them on you at all times if that's what you feel that you need to do. I respect the command. I don't have like that strong conviction of you gotta have them on So like if you have to put them on your beach shorts or your basketball shorts, then do that.
Your Speedo.
Yeah.
No,
Speedo. Yeah.
So have you ever had a day that's just like going like shit, and then you realize you don't have your ZT on? That's happened to me a few times.
Yeah.
Because I'll go to grab them in the midst of this whirlwind of bullshit, and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's happened to me a few times. So have you got anything else to say on that? I think it's beautiful. Cool. All right, so we're gonna end with this. The ZTO Numbers 15:37 is to remember and do all the commands of Yah. Right? So it's a physical reminder to remember and do all the commands of Yah. It's very akin, in my mind, to a wedding ring. To remember and do all the things it takes to be a husband and a father. Right? And it's an external indicator to everybody else hey, I belong to someone, right? Just like the ZCO or an external indicator, hey, I belong to someone, right? And so it serves as a reminder to me, and then it serves as a reminder to everybody else.
Absolutely.
Using that analogy as the wedding ring, you don't typically meet somebody on day one and like an hour later be like, so let's shack up, let's get married, right? I met my wife. I knew she was my wife. And 9 days later, I told her I loved her. And I don't know, shortly thereafter, we moved in together. We were moved in within 30 days. Hold on, this is really, really important. She always
It's
stops
like
when you put the
knows.
camera on.
It's like she knows.
Don't point that thing at me. So, but you typically don't marry somebody that you don't know, right? You have to have an understanding of who this person is before you commit to them. And it's kind of, this hit me in my most recent read through. And no, when we were doing the Torah portion that has numbers 15 in it a few weeks ago, they're to remember and do all the commands of Yah. If you don't know the commands of Yah, how are you supposed to remember them, right? And so that means to me now with my, your understanding is always evolving. Going back to Proverbs 24 earlier, you got to at least have some basic area familiarity, at least have read the Torah, right? Before you throw the Zitziot on so that you can remember, because you can't remember something you never knew in the first place, right? And that had never been revealed to me before, and I say that because I've met a fair number of people who aren't wearing Zitziot, but absolutely should be. And I've met a fair number of people that are wearing Zitziot that should not be wearing Zitziot. Not necessarily in our congregation, but in a lot of other congregations I run into, they're wearing Zitziot because that's what people do.
Right.
And that's not what it says. It's as serious as putting on a wedding ring from the Father. You don't just marry somebody you don't know, right? And you definitely don't just marry somebody due to social pressure. Everybody else is getting married. I guess I should get married too. Like, how's that relationship gonna go, right? And so you have to know the person you're committing to before you come into covenant with them. And so that's something that's on the forefront of my understanding now is like, how do you remember something you don't know?
Yeah.
So implied task, know it. At least read it once or twice so that you can go, oh yeah, they're right. Because back to the spirit, the Ruach, the spirit will tell you, right? Hey man, you might not remember it. It's not in the forefront of your mind, but there's something about this that's not right. I shouldn't do this or whatever, right? And then the spirit's just, don't do it. Like, okay, I'm not going to do it. And then an hour, a day, a week, a month later, you're reading and you're like, that's it. That's what it was. That's why, right? So that you remember to do all the commands of Yah.
That's a good word. I mean, for kids too, right? So.
Yep.
So we had a talk with our kids, and we were like, we want you to understand it.
Yep.
I don't want to force you to wear something or do something that you don't understand just because I understand it. Yeah. Like, I want you to feel that conviction. I don't want you to just do what everyone else is doing.
Just blindly follow.
Yep.
Right, and just, right, so.
Well, then, so I get the question a lot from a lot of people. It's come up on Patreon many times. Can women wear Zitziot? You're literally wearing them right now. 100%. You're wearing them. That's right. My daughter's wearing them. Do you have to? A woman who is covered, who's in a covenant relationship, does not have to, but absolutely can. There's nothing wrong with wearing them. You don't have to, right? Like, my wife doesn't have Zitziot on. She has one on her keychain, but she doesn't wear zitziyot every day because your husband is walking with Yah in the model of Yeshua. You have zitziyot on. You're under his covering. Therefore, your kids, when they decide, if they decide they want to put them on, they can when they have that understanding. But in the meanwhile, as the priest of your home, your job is to raise them up in the way that they should go, right? So they're literally under your covering. It's not even an analogy. They literally live under your roof. They're literally covered, good to go. But there's nothing wrong with them when they understand, if they understand, then putting their own on. There's nothing wrong with you having an external sign of commitment to the Father. It's good. It's just not required. But the way it's written, it says, speak to all the children of Israel. It doesn't say speak to all the men of Israel. It says speak to all the children of Israel. So it's perfectly allowable for a woman to wear zitziyot. They're just not necessarily required because of how the household is supposed to be laid out. So, because like as men, our righteousness does account for our wives and our children. And that's different than a woman. It's different than children. Like, no matter how well behaved Weeze is, it in no way affects my situation at the end of an age when I come into judgment. How I behave does affect, right? How I behave with her, how I raise her, how I steward my wife, how I lead my children absolutely affects my situation at the end of an age when I come into judgment. And so, thank you. That's very kind of you. So there's, it's just different for a man. And because I'm the head, not as and head doesn't mean dictator. A lot of people, especially in the Messianic community, mess that up as well. I'm in charge here, woman, listen to me. It's like you have so little leadership capital with your wife that you have to tell her what to do. Okay. The big tough guy. Look at you. You boss women around? Wow, you're so impressive. You know? What's your resume like? You boss women and children around. Oh, got it. Okay. But there's a lot of people in the Messianic community that their definition of headship is a dictatorship. And for me, it's like these children came from Yah. They're going back to Yah when I'm dead. My wife came from Yah. She's going back to Yah when I'm dead. So I have a very short period of time in the history of the earth where I'm blessed with the responsibility, the stewardship of my wife and my children. And because thank you. Stop. Because she is the daughter of Elohim and was and always will be before she was ever my wife, I just have the blessing of having her in my life, and I need to treat her as a blessing, not as somebody that I have to command around, right? And so, yes, I wear zitziyot, and my wife is covered by my zitziyot because the zitziyot are an external acknowledgement of an inward heart condition to remember and do all the commands of Yah. And they're not for show. They're not stylish. I don't have different ones that I put on with different outfits. Like, most of mine are beat to shit because we work for a living.
Oh, you mean it shouldn't be like at least a foot and a half long, bristling white pearl?
No, they're not that.
Okay.
Like I have a talit, a prayer shawl that Pastor Joe gave me when I got ordained. I've worn it twice because it's like a very sacred almost thing to me, right? It's not for show. It's not something that, hey, you guys want to see my prayer shawl? Look at me. I'm an ordained pastor now. You should listen to what I have to say. It's like, no, you should dude, I might put you on the right path, but you better check everything I say against the word. That's it. To me, all pastor means is now there's societal permission for us to have a conversation that maybe otherwise earlier on it would have been like, well, I don't want to bother him. I don't want to ask. Now it's, and double-edged sword for me, I don't get to say no now, right? Because I used to be able to say, we talked about this at dinner. I used to be able to be like, nah, I'm just your brother. I'll get to you next Tuesday. And now it's like, no, shovel everything out of the way, make room to have an important conversation. So, all right, 2.5 hours in. I think that was a pretty good pelt. What do you guys think? You guys into this?
Give us a thumbs up.
Yeah. Subscribe. Ring the little bell icon. They're all subscribed.
Dad, do you want to read the print?
1010. Thanks. I can't read it from here, baby. What does it say?
Hi, my name is Printer.
It was awesome. What's up, Alex Toter? Awesome. Good pill. Awesome.
Excellent.
Best one yet, Aaron E.
Hey.
Good job, Aaron and Carla.
Good job.
Yeah.
Woo.
I enjoy having people to conversate with. It's good. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know everything. All right. We're gonna go put this baby in a rear naked choke so she'll go to sleep, and I'll see you guys tomorrow when I see you for the live stream. You all have a blessed night. Shalom.
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 Hit the button.